I guess we don't have. Pew, 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 pew. I'm right. He's in the middle, and he's wrong. / left. Pew, 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 pew.
Great imaging.
Thank you. Paid a lot for it. Hello, everybody. It's me, Bubba, and now Brian and I have talked about doing a show, and it was loosely going to be called "I'm Right, You're Wrong" / left. Me representing the right, and him representing the wrong, better known as the left. And then, and Brian, supposedly you called it.
What do you mean called it?
Like that you told somebody that you thought that indeed I would bring Hatley in here, knowing that Hatley was going to be a stand-in on the Thursday show. Did you mention that you thought I would bring in Hatley because I'm not strong, because I'm not intellectually strong enough to debate you?
No, I think you like the idea of this show. I don't think you're going to like actually doing this show. So that's why I think this happened.
Oh, so you're thinking that I can just throw a big piece of meat in the middle and let you two gnaw on it a little bit and just throw in a few Bubba-isms? God damn, have you been seeing my notes?
I think this will be a great one-off.
No, listen, I think I could debate you because I am me and Hatley we're not really right. We're more libertarian, but you can't say I'm libertarian and you're wrong / left. You got to play the right card. And Hatley's cool with the right except for just two little things. So he's representing the right a little bit today, even though he calls himself a libertarian. Yeah, we're in the goddamn show business at the end of the day.
Exactly. I mean, social issues, I'm definitely with the left, but they've got nuts, man.
Yeah, I'm left, and I agree with that to a certain degree. Some of it's insanity. Some of it's manufactured insanity. They're creating issues and making issues out of things that aren't actually issues.
So let me ask you a question. What's manufactured right now that we might be believing that might be a bunch of bullshit?
Democrats want to abort live-born babies after they come out of the womb.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
nobody's hearing that story.
Yes, they just had congressional hearings. Josh Hawley and another senator or representative were questioning scientists and abortion rights advocates on Capitol Hill yesterday, saying you support infanticide, and it's an absurd position to take.
It is when it's cynical in this way. Josh Hawley is a Harvard-educated man.
Yeah, what Brent's saying. What's Brent saying?
Josh Hawley is super smart, and he knows better. And what he's doing is he's trying to get religious people in this country worked up.
Yeah,
because he's part of this. Wants it to be a theocracy. That's part of the problem that I have with the right. Is their theocratic bent that they're on right now.
Which has taken over the party. I mean, let's be honest. The evangelicals are running the show.
And so here's the deal.
And Catholics, let's not let them...
And Catholics,
And so that's what sucks in the fact that I lean right, but I'm real mad about a couple things because they're trying to shove religion and some of this shit down my throat. And I'm thinking, as the most uneducated political guy in this room, I'm thinking, listen, you stupid ass Republicans, you finally got the Democrats kind of on the fucking the ropes. You got them on the ropes. You do. You got them on the ropes. They look like a bunch of fucking horses' ass right now. They're going to get their asses slaughtered in the midterms.
They got Weekend at Bernie's in the White House.
So hold on, you're going to get slaughtered. And so just fucking feather the gas. Don't shove a bunch of stupid shit down our throat.
Right.
The highly polarizing shit like Roe v. Wade, all this kind of stuff. And it's like they're being bullies now, and they're going and they're sucking, the evangelical dick, which is making the average guy, the average right down the middle guy, mad.
Well, I'm telling you,
fucking mad.
And that when you just said it, that is their huge political mistake. They could walk away with the midterms and the next presidential election.
Because a guy like me, Brian, I don't give a fuck about some of the shit that they're really caring about.
They could walk away with this because of their stances on taxes, and you could take a guy like Ron DeSantis. Florida's got a $21 billion surplus right now. That is an economic record that you could run on in a general election if you don't bring up all of this stupid shit. The other thing that a problem I have with the right is they want to say porn is a public health crisis. Really? The number one...
you might want to put me in prison.
Well, the number one porn states are Mississippi and Alabama that watch the most porn.
And you know what they're watching is interracial porn. That's number one, MILF and interracial. And which is so funny because they're two of the more racist states in the union. And yet...
So interracial and MILF porn, that shows you how fucking fake people really are.
That's
exactly right.
And that's what I'm saying. And from living in the Northeast, let me tell you something. This is my anecdotal opinion. I know this is anecdotal evidence, but the people in the Northeast, to me, were way more racist than the people down here in the South. It is way more segregated up there into neighborhoods by race. And there's not a lot of people that hang out in groups together like they do down here.
I would
race.
say it's more overt in the South, and it's more closeted in the North. They've like you said, they've taken their racial separation and they've made it work in a way that's effective. In the South, the racism is much more overt.
It is much more, but even though I'm just telling you though, like when you go to a place like New York City, it is divided into neighborhoods by race.
Right.
It's not good because they have a big disparity in the public school system there because of that.
Yeah.
And some of these schools in these white neighborhoods in New York City, these white liberals in New York City get very upset when a person of color gets a spot in one of these highly coveted schools in New York City. It's insane. And I was like, and up there, the other thing that I don't see down here is there's some anti-Semitism up there in New York, and
well, that's
it
that
is
should be
insane. The liberals up there get very anti-Semitic.
Really?
Oh my God!
I never knew that you could put that on them. I never knew they were anti-Semitic.
Oh boy, yeah. Go to some neighborhoods in Brooklyn and listen to what they have to say. And there's some places in New Jersey too that are very, very blue and very, very liberal, and they will give you an earful about Jewish people. It's crazy. So I don't like everything being pinned on the South because I've seen some weird stuff up there in the Northeast.
So anyway, Brian, I think this show is going to do well, and I think that having Brent in here makes it a better show than having my I think I can be in here and kind of be whatever, throw some shit against the wall and watch you guys two really jump on it. But I'm not nearly as well read as Brent. I think I can throw some of my stupid, slant on politics in here. But you two, really, if I can coordinate to bring you to it, that's where the fucking meat on the bone is.
I'm fine with it.
And
it's
not such an easy W for you with Hatley. With me, it's it's like the Browns playing fucking the Packers.
Well, the problem with you is I lose when I win, right? Because then you'll just stop the show, or I'm not allowed back on the big show, and you'll take it out on me.
I am very bully-like when it comes to getting my way. But I'm right, you're wrong / blue. It's kind of you even wore your blue shirt. That's how stupid I am. I'm just now figuring it out. I should have wore a red one now, shouldn't I?
I know how to work, kid.
You do. Sometimes, you know what? You just I am man enough to say that you outworked me just now.
I tried to get.
I've been in this business 35 years. I just got worked out by a schmarmy, toothy son of a bitch.
I tried to ride in here on a donkey, but I couldn't find one around anywhere. The goats were the closest thing I had.
Yeah.
And then here's the problem. I
should have been wearing a red shirt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Britt should have been wearing what?
Gold.
A swinger shirt with an upside-down pineapple.
Yeah, libertarians are gold. Yeah. And the problem I have with Biden, this is what a phony Biden is. You ready for this? So when Biden gets elected, he runs, we're going to be cool about marijuana.
I thought you liked Biden.
I do not. I have never liked Joe Biden.
You hated Donald Trump, though, too.
Yeah. That I can hold both of those thoughts in my head at the same time.
Brian,
I've never been a Biden fan.
Hold on, no. But this is a little bit of an interesting dichotomy in the fact that Brent hates Biden, but he also publicly, even when he was on the Howard Show, hated Trump.
Yes.
The fact that those are the two choices that we had
is insane.
It speaks to we are a failed experiment in a republican and in a democracy. When those are it's a fake choice, right? There is no real choice. Those are the two choices that we're presented with because of our corrupt, disgusting system.
You've got one guy that's a megalomaniac trust fund baby that's never worked a day in his life and had his whole life handed to him, and you've got another guy that's been in government for over 45, 50 years.
And on every side of every issue at some point or another.
You're talking about the guy that authored the 94 crime bill, which was about one of the worst things that's happened to African Americans in the last 30 years.
And the guy who authored the bankruptcy reform laws in this country that made it almost impossible for middle-class Americans to dig themselves out of bankruptcy.
The name of the show is Biden fucking sucks. Welcome to Biden sucks. We'll give you the stat.
We can do a Trump sucks version of the show, too.
That's next week or 2 weeks from now. Trump sucks.
And the other thing Biden did was he ramped up the war on drugs. And when they ramped up the war on drugs, what they did at a rate of 6-1 is they went into African American neighborhoods versus white neighborhoods. And then Biden's going to come through, and when he's running and he needs South Carolina in the primary, he's going to act like he's been the champion of black people. Give me a break. He has been terrible since he was in the Senate. Look at how he treated Anita Hill. People are mad at Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas is on the Supreme Court because Biden was a dick to a woman that was sexually harassed at the Department of Justice by her boss. And Biden was a dick to her in those.
Brian's got a boner right now.
He was the head of the Senate Judiciary. So
this is going away different than you thought, Brian.
I don't want anybody on the left telling me how great Biden is, and now he wants to ban menthol cigarettes because kids might smoke them, and he wants to ban vaping, which is the number one way to get people to stop smoking. This guy's bought and paid for by the tobacco companies too.
I will say this: the whole Juul vaping
this is
thing.
I'm right, you're wrong /left with a Bubba kicker. Go ahead.
The whole Juul vaping thing. Juul has had time to get into FDA compliance. They have chosen not to follow the requirements that the FDA put out for them to continue to sell their product. That's on Juul. Now, they did ultimately reinstate their ability to sell, but they're not like trying to completely eliminate vaping. I think there is a concern of vaping amongst teens, and it should be more difficult.
Well, I mean,
for them
smoking
to
and
obtain
anything
Right.
a teen smoking.
Cigarette smoking's way worse.
I mean, well, no, but hold on. Anything a teen does needs to be highly regulated. I mean, you shouldn't be able to smoke what you want, anything you want until you're 18. Period. Whether it's a vape pen, a cigarette, a black and mild, or a fucking joint, it doesn't matter.
Of course,
you got to wait till you're 18.
Of course, but restricting what adults can do because of what about the children? Well, Bubba and we've been victims of that one before.
No,
about that argument. And on the other side, the FDA, fuck the FDA. You know how corrupt they are? That is a revolving door between big pharma and government.
They're all corrupt, though. So
hold on, we got our first phone call.
It's the system we have.
Hello, welcome to I'm Right and You're Wrong /Rhett with a Hatley kicker. Go ahead.
Hey, what's up? It's Hot Carl. I'm just going to lay this here and let you guys hash it out. But saw a very hypocritical video of Joe Biden when he was in Senate holding up like a quarter, and he says, you see this right here? This size of a crack rock of cocaine, I don't care who you are or where you are, this is going to land you 5 years in prison, blah, blah, blah. And he was hardcore against it, right? Then you got his son, video comes out, sitting there with about 4 quarters worth on a freaking scale.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Hatley and Brian will get on that. Have they validated the Hunter Biden video? Like has that been validated?
It looks real to me.
It looks real to me. So if the president's son's a crackhead, what does that mean?
Well, it's the point that the caller made. I really, as a libertarian and a libertine, I think you should be able to do crack and hookers all you want. I really do.
Too.
I got
no
problem with that. And Hunter Biden doesn't work for the administration.
Right.
I have
he
no
didn't
problem
get him
with that.
top secret security clearance.
But here's the problem I have with it. Joe Biden is the one that ramped up the war on drugs. He's the one that ramped up penalties for people for cocaine. Sometimes it's a life sentence for possessing cocaine at the federal level. That came from Joe Biden. That's the problem I have with it, because now it's his son, it's no big deal. But when it's a poor black person in Dallas that does the rest of their life in prison for having crack cocaine on them, which, by the way, was introduced by the CIA in Los Angeles in the early 80s. But nonetheless, when it's that
now, do you
person,
believe that too, Brian? I mean, I do.
That's an actual fact.
The war on drugs has been a war against minorities and a war to increase police funding and police activity in the United States
and support the prison industrial complex.
Which is one of the biggest problems facing America. A lot of these prisons, these contracts they sign, they get paid for 90% occupancy,
95%
no matter what. Even if the prison, so the
prison could be like 62%, but they get a 95 kicker.
First of all, the prison will never be 62%.
But I'm saying,
they've got these cush contracts. There shouldn't be no private prisons in the United States. Zero.
None. And the prison
slave labor too. Do you know why tilapia became such a popular fish in America? Because the Colorado Department of Corrections started farming tilapia and selling it wholesale to companies like Whole Foods and things like that. They undercut the entire white
because
fish
their labor's for
market
free.
because they're paying 40 cents an hour to prisoners to farm it under the guise of they're learning an important job skill.
Under the guise
they can
of you
get
don't have
out
to be
of prison and become a fucking tilapia farmer?
No, but under the guise, you know what? The other, you don't have to be in your cell, so these poor guys will work for this. What else fucking is there going to do, right?
It's totally corrupt. The prison industrial complex is, and I agree with you. Biden's hypocrisy on the drug issue issue. If you find me a politician, I'll find you a fucking hypocrite.
And I'll give you another one. Biden, once he got into office, they hire their whole staff, and they hire a whole bunch of young people, have to put in a lot of hours at the White House. That's how every White House works. But a whole lot of young people got hired, and they have this whole questionnaire they had to fill out. And they said, listen, if you're honest with us about your marijuana use, it's going to be no problem. Anybody that said that they used marijuana got fired when they told them that they weren't going to. And get this, here's the kicker. These people that got fired for using marijuana, they did it in states where it was legal, and they got fired. So Biden...
So they would have like all these interns and potential people working for the White House, shipped in from, these very smart people, these very good kids.
That worked on the campaign and earned a spot at the White House.
And so then, coming from all different, from Indiana to Florida to California to EPO.
Yep.
And then they get there, tell them they're trying to pare them on down as to who goes where. And
just be honest on your questionnaire.
And if you said that you did weed, boom, you're out of here.
You're fired, even if you did it in a state that was legal.
No, but historically, haven't the Democrats been a little easier on weed than the Republicans?
In their words, not their actions.
Well, at the state and local level, yes. At the state and local level, yes. Federally, no. But at the state and local level, Democrats and Democratic cities have been far less punitive to marijuana users than conservative conservative leaders.
Yes. That's true. But at the national level, though, the Democrats say a lot of stuff, and they never do shit.
So when does it finally get off the DEA scheduled whatever? Like does
you know who could do that right now? Joe Biden. You don't even need Congress.
Donald Trump could have done it. Obama could have done it.
Now let me ask you a question.
Clinton could have done it. They're all hypocrites.
Let me ask you a question. Could Joe Biden right now here, like my article? 18% of Americans say Biden should run. Just 18% of Americans say that Biden should run for re-election in 2024, which is an all-new low.
24% of Democrats.
All right, so now hold on. Could he get an uptick if he would legal? Could he? I think he would.
He could. I mean, you know what's funny about that poll?
Hold on, really quick. Elizabeth Warren and a bunch of congressmen just wrote Biden a letter, and it's public, and said, would you please legalize marijuana? Because they know that politically it's polling at 80%. Yeah, so they know that would give them a boost, and they could say, we're for freedom, and Roe v. Wade, they're not.
But here's the thing, too, which is hypocritical on their part, is every single one of those people that wrote him a letter could introduce a single-issue bill in legislature and take it off the books as being illegal. So they're all fucking hypocrites. Don't fall for the letters and the, public cries. You fucking take it up. Do it. You have the power to do it. So
you're saying Elizabeth Warren doesn't need all this bullshit? No. She needs to come up with a single bill. Sponsored by Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth motherfucking Warren bill.
She'd write the bill.
Single issue bills are the most devastating thing you can do to the other side. But neither side uses them because they don't want to. Because what they end up doing is they put poison pills and all these things that they know the other side's never going to go for into a bill. Something that polls at 80% popularity, like single issue, the gun reform bill that they just passed, which was very rudimentary, very basic, but that reform bill passed because it didn't have the poison pills in it that they normally stick in the bills.
It was straightforward, strictly about the gun shit.
It had bipartisan support for the most part. There's staunch, no, you can't make any restriction on arms. Republicans voted against it, but the moderates and the ones that aren't super far right on that issue voted for it.
So
if Elizabeth Warren wanted marijuana to be legalized in the federal government, she could just draft a law saying it's no longer an illegal substance.
But by the same token, though, Biden could take THC Delta 9, marijuana, and psilocybin off of Schedule 1 right now, because Schedule 1
as the president?
The president, that's an executive order.
For real.
That is because it is a DEA regulation. The president with an executive order could do that today.
So, Brian, don't you think that he's got handling, and
he doesn't like drugs.
No, but what I'm saying though, Brian, is
he's a pro-life Catholic.
Yeah,
is that going to be more of a shitstorm for him, having him been so anti-drug back in the day? If that might be the only thing. That would be the only thing that would make me happy that he had done so far. If he did that, I mean, think about how many people that would really be probably a pretty good thing for him. He could probably gain 10% approval because of that. Could he not?
I don't know that it would be that big of a jump, but it would help. It would help the Democrats in the midterms, which is why Elizabeth Warren's pushing for it right now, because they need something at this point to overcome the disastrous economic conditions.
Right, and it would give them a narrative, too, to say they want to take your right to choose over your body away,
Right.
and we are giving you a freedom.
Yeah,
Right.
That is a narrative.
It
And that's a
continues
good- and that's
that
a good slogan.
anti-freedom, that the Republicans are anti-freedom, anti-choice.
And we're uptight and a whole nine yards. They're
Yeah.
taking things away from you, and we're cool and free. So let's get high.
The flip side
That's
of
what they
that,
should do.
the
Yeah.
flip side of that is you activate the evangelicals, the pearl clutchers.
You already
and-
have with the fucking
But
Roe v. Wade.
They're
Well,
already worked
Roe
up.
v. Wade doesn't. And see, that's the problem. The Republicans did not want the Republican machine, the party machine, not individual Republicans, did not want Roe v. Wade to be overturned.
DeSantis is not happy about it.
It is-
Privately, is what I'm hearing. DeSantis is freaked out about
Hey,
this.
listen,
It's
I can't
a
hold on.
fundraising boondoggle for them, the abortion issue. When you take it off the table, it makes it so
you know
much
what
harder for them to play on emotions.
Can I tell you how Tom Bean explained this to me? And sometimes Tom Bean speaks better Bubba. Maybe Hatley speaks good Bubba too, but sometimes you got to break stuff down for me, right? You know, and the way I interpret things, the way I do it. I immediately knee-jerked, Brian, when I heard the Roe v. Wade deal. I immediately, thought, oh, fuck, the Supreme Court is making it illegal to get abortions. And then the Diacos talked to me and like, not really. They're not really voting on abortion as an act. They're just saying that it needs to go to the state level, and it's not, a constitutional amendment, so to speak, or you're right. They're just putting it on the state level. Then Tom Bean said this to me after I, got both sides of the fence. He's like, really? It's the Supreme Court being a bunch of dicks.
Yep.
And I go, what? And he goes, this doesn't have anything to do with the Supreme Court is trying to put their dicks on the table and be a little more fucking important than they really are. Because they don't have to do this. They didn't have to stir this shit up.
No, they could have taken what I thought they were going to do, which is
But
to
is
say
Tom
that
right?
the
Is Tom Bean
Oklahoma
right?
law
Yes.
was allowable. They shocked everybody by going as far to the right on this issue as they did.
Right, and Tom was like, this is them just, and then Tom Bean told me, the Republicans didn't want this.
They didn't.
The GOP did not want this.
Nope.
This is the Supreme Court going rogue, trying to be the fucking coolest guy in the room.
This gave the
Is
Democrats.
that true, kind
this
of? Like
gave
when
the-
you break it down like that, is it true?
That is
yes,
true.
This gave the Democrats hope in the midterms. They should get, by all accounts,
Yeah.
they should get absolutely slaughtered. They should lose
Like
4
I
or
said,
5
they were
Senate
on the
seats.
verge of getting slaughtered until all this shit started coming
It
out.
gives them hope. I still don't think it's going to be great for them in the midterms as long as the Republicans can stay out of their own way. But it gives them hope in the midterms. This issue alone, this single issue, gives them an ability to fundraise and to activate support that otherwise would have been tepid and staying at home. They're not voting
right.
because they love the president.
People that might have stayed at home are so adamant and so pissed off about this stuff, it gets people out nonetheless.
Yep.
Right?
It's a motivator for them for sure.
It's one of those issues that is going to cause people to vote. It is absolutely going to do that. And
again, nobody has broke it down like Tom Bean said. Nobody has said this Roe v. Wade deal was the Supreme Court being a bunch of dicks.
And Pence gave the whole thing away when everybody keeps saying that, oh, we're sending it back to the states. I'm telling you right now, if the Republicans take over the House and the Senate, there will be a federal ban introduced. I'm telling you there will be.
But isn't that just fuck? I mean, don't
That's
they
what they
understand?
did. That's what they did with gay
But don't
marriage.
they? I mean,
They won't get 60. They won't get 60 seats in the Senate to overcome the filibuster on the issue. So they would then have to
all right. What
destroy the
about
filibuster.
gay marriage? I don't think they can absolutely fucking even think about touching that, can they?
They're going to try.
I mean, when you start
Oh,
when you
man.
so there's a lineage of cases, right? There's a lineage of cases. Griswold's
By the way, this is
next
the
one.
first episode of I'm Right, You're Wrong, but maybe the
Yeah.
wrong's pretty cooler than I thought.
What Brian's about to say is right, and if you read Justice Thomas's concurring
Yes.
opinion, he lays out what Brian's exactly about to say.
Right. So Griswold versus Connecticut, and then this,
That's birth control.
That's the birth control.
Oh, I thought it
And
was
then
Clark
you have-
Griswold. Sorry.
And then you've got the pornography case, right to privacy, and then you got the gay marriage case, and you've got
Notice he didn't mention loving in that
right,
litany of
which is
cases.
interracial marriage, which is his marriage. But they were all tied to the right to privacy and the right to privacy and liberty that existed
and
in Roe.
equal protection under the
and
law.
equal protection. When you remove that and you start to peel that away, then the fear is that, okay, now they're going to take up a case on gay marriage. They say that's a states' rights issue, right? Well,
but there was a Defense of Marriage Act before it was struck down. There was a federal ban on gay marriage.
Yes, DOMA was around, and absolutely. So it's one of those issues that people don't realize how explosive this can be to our entire country. We can become a very easy a Christian theocracy again.
What?
Yes, he's right. And I'm going to tell you, this is from somebody who's lived in the worst theocracy on earth.
And you guys are agreeing on a lot of shit around here.
Brett and I aren't far apart socially. Because you focused only on social issues. If we start talking about economic issues, we may have a little bit of a difference of opinion.
A big difference, and you'll probably get a big difference on guns, too. But on this issue, I've lived in a theocracy. I've lived in Saudi Arabia. Is the worst theocracy in this entire world.
Is that true, Brian? One of them?
I mean, Afghanistan was pretty terrible when they were, but it's
the
up there.
Wahhabi sect of Islam is the most extreme sect of Islam, and that's who runs Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
On, so, just fact checking.
So here's the thing that everybody needs to know about theocrats. They are never happy. Look at the pictures of the Saudis. They look like happy people to you. They are never happy.
They have sand in their vaginas.
Theocrats go one step further, one step further, one step further, and they never, ever stop.
Yep. They overreach every time.
And they never stop. If you look at the history of the world with theocrats, that is exactly what they do. And that is, Justice Thomas laid it out in words, that's exactly what they want to do. They're going to go after birth control. They're going to go after gay marriage. They're going to go after porn. You can 100% count on that.
But don't they realize, Brent, as they go after all this shit, you're talking about the right, the extreme right, after
the religious right,
the religion, but which is kind of what the right is right now. But if you say they're going to go after that, how about the tens of millions of guys like me and Shannon Burke and Blitz and that are considered themselves right, but I don't agree with any of that shit. I don't like any of that shit, and I'm not going to go for it. What happens to me?
So here it ends up being the problem is you've got the people on the left who are worried about pronouns, and they're worried about saying men can be pregnant, and they're worried about all this shit that the average guy is like, what are you even talking about? When they should be explaining what Brian and I are sitting here explaining, they're not explaining any of that. They're worried about these fringe, far left, weird issues that have nothing to do with anything, and it makes the average person go, well, these people are crazy, so I'm not going to be on the crazy team.
The reality is that those are the fundraising issues, though. What Brent and I are talking about would be that it would sell to the average person, but you want that visceral, angry response, then you've got somebody woke.
Those are the people who write your checks, right?
Those are the people that put on a pink hat and go out in the streets and scream and cry.
Right.
Those are the people that give you your sound bites.
Yes.
Those are the people that give you your video clips that you get to play over and over again. And both sides need those people, just like the left needs the oath keepers and the lunatic militias on the right, even though they are an absolute fringe group. And
because it's a big work. This is faker than pro wrestling. It is a huge work, and they need money, and that's why the GOP. He's absolutely right. The Republican Party itself did not want Roe overturned because they need to make Democrats heels and say that we need to get this overturned.
And the way they're doing it now is with the bullshit of the infanticide. That Democrats want to kill a baby after it's born. They want to murder your babies. This is what they're having to resort to now. This inflammatory bullshit, which hopefully everybody can see through.
And I don't know what's more pathetic right now. This just comes from I'm not nearly into this like you guys are, but I don't know what's more pathetic. What's going on currently with the administration, or what the Republicans are doing to gear up for their next run at it. I don't know what's more fucking pathetic because I'm hard. I usually vote right. And I'm fucking disgusted at the bullshit they're pulling right now.
So to me, what the Democrats right now and what's going on is sad, but it doesn't have the generational impact of what the Republicans are doing with using the Supreme Court and what they're trying to push through to make us a religious theocracy again.
So that is a good point, but I want you to take a look at the left from this perspective. human interaction and human touch is part of human development and part of your mental development and all this stuff. The Democrats in a lot of blue states and a lot of blue cities because of coronavirus, locked people down. And that has caused more mental health issues. And that's going to be generational. They're going to pass that down to their kids and everything else with specifically teenagers and young kids a little younger than that. Those lockdowns and that fear mongering for 2 years that the left was almost like almost like a religious thing.
I know, but don't you find it odd now, just when the left comes up with some kooky corona shit, and does all that shit, then the right, rather than just to feather the gas, let's just feather the gas because the left look like a bunch of fucking kook jobs. Nope, we're going to go in here and overturn or at least make this Roe v. Wade thing an absolute fucking shitstorm. It's not what the party wanted. And you got guys like me and other dudes that are fucking just regular dudes that are pissed off to the point where I don't even know if I can, I don't know who the fuck, I don't even know. I like DeSantis, but I feel as if DeSantis is just trying to, tread water and trying to stay out of the real hot shit.
I'm torn on DeSantis, and here's why I'm torn. Because, one, I really, as a libertarian, respect the fuck out of the guy for he had everybody, Republicans and Democrats, but really heavy pressure on the left to shut the state down, and he stood up to them and kept our state open, and a lot of my friends kept their jobs that they would have lost had we been shut down, and they're like, listen, I usually vote for Democrats, but you know what? I got to feed my kid, and that comes first. So keeping the state open and keeping our economy open. Florida has one of the best economies in the country. We have a $21 billion surplus. DeSantis has that to run on. His wife is a Nancy Reagan type into the drug war, and he's celebrating this Roe v. Wade stuff, and then he just passed this law about surveying professors and students about their political beliefs with the state. Like, that kind of stuff bothers me. But on the economic side and the gun rights side, I like him. So I'm torn on a guy like this.
He was good on the environmental side when he started, and he was good for teachers. The problem is he has bought into, and he has been forced, and this is the biggest problem with Donald Trump and what Trumpian politics has done to America, is he has been forced to take radical, ridiculous positions. His war on Disney, his war on woke, all of this stuff that he should be above that fray as a governor of a state. You should be above the internet scuttlebutt bullshit.
And he didn't even need to be involved in it. That's the thing.
He's injecting himself into it.
He doesn't even need to, because look at his vaccine distribution. Okay, if you just take the politics out of it, having Walgreens and CVS as a testing zone, and then starting off with distribution at Publix, CVS had to go down to the Everglades to find a place where you couldn't get to a Publix, but it was still only an hour bus ride if you had to do that. But there was a Publix. His vaccine distribution, shot distribution is not really a vaccine. Nonetheless, his distribution of that was great, and they had to edit his answer on 60 Minutes to make him look bad, because he actually did a competent job with that. He did a competent job with keeping our economy going.
But now he goes after Disney, and then he goes after this woke shit.
Why even get involed in that?
The transgendered sports issue. I mean, this is why they get involved in it, though, Bubba.
Because their party tells them to, don't they?
No, these are the issues that raises the money. These are the issues that get you social interaction. Social media has destroyed our country.
It has.
It is the worst.
It's worse than you even ever imagined.
It's you think
it's what runs our country.
You know how bad it is,
and
it is so much worse.
It's kind of like my Hogan sex tape. You really don't know how bad it is.
And it's the algorithm that's been created, and what they found out. They used this psychologist named B.F. Skinner. They used his psychology, and they taught it to these tech fucking nerds in Silicon Valley. And what they did was they took this algorithm, and the algorithm is designed to do one thing: to keep you on the screen. And what the algorithm figured out is the more negative and the more extreme, the more it keeps you on the screen. So they brought this data to Zuckerberg. They brought it to him and said, this is what it's doing to people. It's making people more angry, but it's keeping them on the screen. And Zuckerberg said, don't ever fucking bring me anything like that again. Our job is to make the most money for Facebook that we can possibly make. They found that YouTube, say you went to YouTube and you watched a documentary, a legitimate documentary about the Holocaust. 5 videos later, you're onto neo-Nazi stuff because it pushes you to more. The algorithm pushes you to more.
We all get into these vortexes.
But if you're a true libertarian, you should support Facebook's right to do that because they are simply in the marketplace. They are not doing anything illegal. They're not doing anything that.
I know, Brian, but hold on. They do have the right.
Look, I am against. Against what they're doing. I'm just saying, as a libertarian,
as a libertarian, they should be allowed to do it, but they should not have a 230 exemption. They should have to deal with liability in civil courts.
But as a libertarian, 230 shouldn't even exist.
That's what I'm saying. 230 should exist.
But I'm saying the marketplace of ideas should just be free to go, right?
No, but that's not what libertarians think.
But hold on, Brian. I don't have a problem with them being a business, being able to do what they want. But when they single-handedly don't let a certain party or a certain political person have the same stage that another guy has.
Oh, that's 100% their right as a corporation.
I know, and
100%.
I know it
but
is.
But they have a 230 exemption. So since they have a 230 exemption, now there's a government interest in it. So
Brent, you and Brian probably need to describe what a 230 interest is because a guy driving a combine in Indiana like me doesn't know right now.
So if I get on Facebook and I say all kind of libelous, slanderous things about you, you cannot sue Facebook for that being up there.
Essentially, they're immune from the actions and words of their users.
Okay.
But they edit. Like you said, Bubba, they edit and they decide who can be on there and what can be on there. So once you do that, in my mind, you're a publisher. And once you're a publisher, you do not deserve a 230 exemption.
Well, I don't think you can have both. I don't think you can have a 230 exemption and pick and choose who's there.
That's what they've got right now.
I mean, Brian, does that make sense? Where if you're going to have a 230 exemption, then you can't pick and choose who you got to let everybody in.
He's correct. The issue for them, and this gets into the size of the platform, right, is that it becomes almost impossible at some point to properly monitor from a 230 liability perspective. It becomes almost impossible for them to actually monitor all of the actions that are going on.
No, your party's going to bring in a misinformation bitch, and she's going to do TikTok videos.
So here's how you remedy that situation. The same way that I absolutely believe in having your car registration and a driver's license. I can't be One-Eyed Pete on my driver's license. I can't even buy my computer. The IP and the serial number of the computer are registered to you when you buy it at Best Buy. The way that you do it is you have people, you can say whatever you want. But guess what? You need to be Brian Matroni. And
you need to register. You need to take onus.
Verified and have your name on there. And you can't sign up for 50 sock puppet accounts. And corporations can't. And here's what goes on, too. Corporations take bots. And a lot of times when you're arguing with somebody online, you're arguing with an actual bot.
Oh, 100%.
Because the more, and the bot's job is to keep you on the screen. So that's why they'll never concede a point. They argue like a bot. They just want you to comment more because the more you comment, the more it pushes the algorithm. That's how it works. And the more they keep you on the screen, the more money they make. Anytime something is for free, like Facebook or YouTube or any of this stuff, Twitter, you're the product. Your attention is the product. And your money...
keeping you on that screen and throwing some ads up here and there.
See, it's so funny. The only thing that people get mad about is the fact that they direct market to you. Like, oh, I search for this, and all of a sudden I'm seeing car ads.
Yeah, they're listening to me.
That is the least nefarious thing that they're doing, and that's the only thing that people get mad about.
That might be the most honest thing that they're doing.
Yeah, it's actually the most helpful thing that they're doing.
They're actually selling an ad. They're giving an exposure to a local geo-targeted business about something that you potentially are interested in. That's good business.
He's right. That is the actual helpful thing they're doing. What they're doing.
But that's what we get mad about.
People get mad about. That's what people get mad about.
What you should be mad about, what they should be mad about, is it's giving teenagers and young people a dopamine spike for the more inhumane that they can be. And
the more of these they get, the more of these they get. Yeah. Everything, this and this drives their entire existence.
The reward system, the likes, the upvotes on Reddit, stuff like that. It's designed that way by these tech nerds that I talked to you before. There was this guy who was a Mormon professor that taught them B.F. Skinner. And it's the reward system that keeps you on the screen.
I cannot believe you said that. Let me just tell both of you a little bit of a story and how they got me. I'm now part of what you're talking about, and that is I ordered that dog shock collar for Bella, okay? And it was like $44. And it was a really good one because the reason why I like it is because the first one I got didn't have the vibrate feature, so it was either like a little bell tone, like a dee-dee-dee-dee, or a shock.
Right.
Well, the other one, I didn't like that too much. And by the way, when I did have that for 2 weeks before my other one came, I put the shock unit actually on my neck, and I put it, the setting that I shock her with when I need to correct her, I've already shocked myself, and I'll do it anytime on my neck. So if I can do it on my neck, I know it's not hurting her. It's just getting her attention. But the new one that I got has a vibration mode. So I use that. I can just give her a little vibration, which doesn't hurt. It's like a vibrator. And that kind of lets her know. I've only had to shock her one time. So that being said, I'm buying this unit on Amazon, okay? Amazon then sends me an email saying, if you do a review on this shock collar and we'll send you a $30 or $35, one of the two, $30 or $35 Amazon card. So I'm like, there's no way that. So I went on there to the review, hit 5 stars. Even it could have been a piece of crap. Like it could have been the worst, chintziest thing I ever bought. But because I'm being rewarded, I put 5 stars in there, and I went, hey, I tried several shock collars over the years, and this seems to be the one that is the most effective. It has a vibration feature, so you don't really have to shock Sparky. Bubba. They then, Brian, just yesterday got a hold of me and said, if you want to do a little video of you using this thing to your dog, we'll send you another $30. And since you are have shown interest, we'll start sending you free products to review. So they're now going to start sending me free stuff to review because I've reviewed things.
Well, and this also creates another whole other issue, which is
what's real?
The dilemma of the influencer, right? Like, what are you actually being sold? That is, But
isn't that a prime example of the reward system?
That's the reward system, yes, because they need your reviews to push the algorithm, and it goes into this thing. And everybody, I encourage you to look this up. Google the dead internet theory, because a lot of the internet, and where Elon Musk is 100% right, is a lot of it is bots and sock puppets, and it's created by some of the sock puppets are sadistic sociopaths that get off on causing people pain, but a lot of it is for profit by corporations. They create these accounts to argue with you and comment under their product because that's what makes the algorithm push it more. But the nefarious thing in all this is, as we've seen with these shooters, the thing that they don't get into is all these people are immersed in social media, and then it's like when you get into rap or heavy metal music. Like you get into heavy metal music and you get all the way down. It's not dangerous. You get all the way to death metal, like I do, but that's art. Like rap, same thing. You get to hardcore rap from being a rap fan. Well, these guys start with this little kernel, and then they get to an extreme violent position, especially males that are 17 to 24 years old while their brain is developing. It is turned into something that is absolutely dangerous.
So is social media one of the, we can gun law it and do this and that, but is social media in itself one of the huge issues as to why we're having these school shootings?
It's the biggest issue facing our nation right now. It's the biggest issue facing the continuation of our nation. It's the number one most likely thing that's going to cause us to have a civil war in this country at some point in time in the near
social
future.
Media.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree with all that, and it is designed to divide us that way in the most extreme ways. And a guy like Donald Trump came along and exploited it.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And we.
So, Brian, what do we do?
Really,
what we do?
What they were able to do with Trump and the 2016 election, and then in 2020 is weaponize it, right? So they took this. The technology that they had, and then they knew how to use it, and they were using it in ways that were kind of on the borderline of ethical and unethical, and now they've full on weaponized it against us. What do? We pray that.
It's an addiction, though. It's a dopamine spike people are getting. It's look at the line at Starbucks. Try to get people to put their caffeine down. Like that's the level.
They're on their phone while they're waiting to get their caffeine. They're looking for. We're constantly searching.
I mean, this right here, the phone is the start of it. Right?
Yes.
I mean, that's your key. That's your gateway into it.
Security blanket. This is your.
Yes.
This is the number one drug that everybody in America is addicted to. Yep. We cannot live without it. We cannot do anything without it.
How many of us?
You sit in uncomfortable silence for 2 seconds. What do? You grab your phone.
It's a habit.
But hold on. And how many of us, and I guarantee you every one of us in this studio, have gone in, you're going to go somewhere, you get in your car, and you left your cell phone inside, right? is there even a question that you don't go back upstairs and get your phone, or do you just say, oh, you know what, I'm just going to dinner with my wife and I'm only going to be gone 2 or 3, what could really happen in the world in 2 no, I'm just going to leave my phone up there. Do you? Or do you go get it because you literally think you'll freak out that you got to be tethered to every possible thing in the world?
Yes.
Yeah,
Brian, even you. I mean, Brian, if you were pulling out of the garage and you're like, oh, honey, I left my... Hold on, I got to get my phone.
I left
what
my...
if I got a guy who just broke his neck in Hernando County and needs a personal injury guy?
This weekend, I took my daughter for ice cream right like a mile away from our house, not far at all, and I left my phone at home. And I almost had like a little bit of anxiety.
A little panic attack?
I'm like, dude, you're at an ice cream store with your daughter a mile from your house. You don't need your phone. Enjoy them, you know. But
be in the moment.
But I had to have that conversation with myself to get over that initial anxiety of my safety blanket. I didn't have it with me.
Your little wowie.
My boopy. I didn't have my boopy with me. And yeah,
that's right. Our phones are our boopies.
They are.
We got to have our goddamn boopies.
They are, and it's.
I mean,
really...
Brent, your phone is more addicted than marijuana.
Oh, okay.
No, hold on. You could say, and Hatley, you're the biggest pothead I know, but I could say, Brent, I got to tell you right now, man, you got to go without. There's a big time fucking drug test you got to take to win this fucking, whatever the shit. And Brent, you got to go a week without weed. You could do it.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. You could be like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to be a little bit irritable, but I'll do it. Could you go a week without your phone?
No, it's your connectivity to the world, and it's completely designed this way. And I had an experience. The Misfits, this band, got back together,
right?
And they're doing.
You're a big fan. You got a tattoo.
Yeah, huge. They get back together. They do.
Do they know you?
The manager knows me very well.
Do they know how big of a fan you are?
Yeah. So they did a show in New Jersey, and I saw them at Madison Square Garden. But they make you put your phone in this green pouch called Yonder, and they lock it. So you can't be on.
Brian, you've been to some shows that have done that, have they not?
So you can't be on.
Comedy shows are doing it more and more too, but that's to protect the material for the artist.
But the Misfits just wanted everybody to pay attention
and
to
live
the
in
show
the moment,
and live in the moment, and it was such an enjoyable experience. Now I've seen Tool twice, and they don't lock your phone, but there's a note on your seat when you go to see Tool, and it says, "We're asking you to pay attention for the 2 hours of this show. Do not be on your phone, or you will be ejected." And they mean have your phone in your hand on it, not even taking pictures. If you are on your phone, you get thrown out of a Tool show.
Yeah,
so,
and I think it's there, right? I mean, if they make 100%. that disclaimer on each seat.
They really should be making, from a legal perspective, they should be making that at the time of purchase of the ticket, and it should be printed in the terms and conditions of the ticket.
It might be.
It might be.
And then as long as they're, but they're protected that way. If they're not telling you until you're physically at the show, that's problematic. They're probably going to have to issue a refund at the very least from a legal perspective. But from a social perspective, I love it.
But hold on,
that's why I love going on cruises.
When you put your phone on in those little green bags, Brent, how do you coat check it, or like how does it work?
You keep it on you, and then on the way out, they have the people that work at the venue have keys, and they unlock your phone for you and hand it back.
So what if you would really need? I guess you could probably.
You got to go outside.
You got to go outside to use it.
To the lobby.
All right, so you come in like if there was an emergency or something like that, you want to check in with your kids. You do have the ability to do that.
You absolutely, but the band does not want anybody on their phones. And then what starts happening like happened at rock shows, Bubba, when we were growing up. Chicks got on their boyfriend's shoulders and start showing the tits.
Right.
That was starting to happen. My wife's like, "What's going on here?"
Don't have their cameras around.
Yeah. My wife's like, "What's going on here?" I go, "This is what concerts were like in the '80s. Like this is."
Because old girl, when back when you were at the Bryan Adams concert in '86, and you had a girl on your tits. I mean, she'd have to worry about it being in the newspaper the next day.
No,
nobody had a fucking picture of that shit.
No,
she's losing her job because she flashed a rock star while she was drunk.
Right.
I remember seeing.
But today's world, Brian, if Missy McGillicuddy, who was a real
a school teacher,
yeah.
right? She's a cool school teacher, fifth grade art. Fifth grade art teacher.
She goes to the Poison concert because she's reminiscing back when she was in college, and she saw Bret Michaels up there with his eyeliner, and she just got to show the titties. So she does. Well, next thing you know, I mean, she's fucked.
There's pictures everywhere.
She's canceled.
Yeah. There's pictures everywhere. And back in the day, like I remember going to see Kiss at the Bayfront Center, and Paul Stanley's like, "How can I sing with all these bras in my face?" And I'm like, I'm a teenager. I'm like, this is the greatest fucking thing ever.
Can you imagine if we were able to document just what we went through at our livestock venues.
Dude, I got
my
some I got
God.
some livestock stories from when I helped out with Kelly there, and
my God.
I ran the camera.
I
on
was the king. I was
Oh
the
no,
I
couldn't.
was
Mine
God.
won't compete with yours.
Oh my
I
But
mean,
just mine
you don't
is a
understand.
nobody.
I was God, meaning like I had my own tour bus, I had my own party tent. I fucking ran the entire deal.
I could only imagine what you were
amazing.
just
me
in and out.
I mean, Brent had to it was like part-time pussy manager. He had to manage the pussy.
Oh, so awesome.
That had to be amazing.
It was so awesome.
I mean, literally, we'd drive our golf cart or whatever back to the back, and we would ask some chicks, hey. They, of course, knew who I am because I had Brent will tell you, the Pasco County had to provide an escort.
Yeah.
So I had cops with me at all times, and I'd be like, hey, how many of you girls want to go backstage and suck some dick?
One time,
And they'd be like, oh, we do.
One time, just for a rib, we picked out the biggest girl, like walking by backstage, the biggest girl we could, and made Nella fuck her.
Yeah, we did. Brian, it was such a freak show that we found the biggest girl we could, and then we made our intern fuck her. And she by the way, it was both consensual. Like
It was. No,
she
she
wanted,
was into it.
she wanted to go backstage, and he wanted to get laid.
Yeah.
And so it was, and we watched.
Oh my God. It
Yeah,
was,
my voyeuristic things happened early on.
Oh, that was such a great time. And
I mean, it would be nothing, Brian, to go in the back and see like Phoenix Black and a couple chicks that were like going down on each other, shooting a porno right there in the tent. And then we, right. And now, what was your livestock story, Brian?
So-
and you were on like a lower level than me.
Way
obviously.
lower. I was nobody, right? I was the boyfriend of an intern for you, right?
Right.
At the time.
But my intern, nonetheless.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. Well, but so they needed some help. I think it was Vinny Russo at the time was running some stuff for the audio video side of things.
Right.
And I knew him from high school, and so they needed some help with camera coverage for livestock because they were trying to film it, and I think they were live streaming this one or something like that. There was something unique
That
about
or they were
it.
going to make it a disc
Or they were
or
showing,
something
yeah,
like that.
showing
yeah.
it. Yeah,
we had
doing something
we had
with
two
it.
video screens that
Yeah,
year.
It was the year Godsmack played.
Yeah,
Right.
we had two huge video screens.
So they had
that
like
year.
like you were almost a live feed for like the Jumbotron.
100%. Yeah. So
right.
so he puts me on the camera. He's like, shoot the stage, shoot the crowd. I'm not I've zero experience working.
But hold on, you're in the mix though. I mean, you're in a real cool spot.
I'm in right like by the soundboard, in the center of the pit. Right
Right.
by the soundboard area there. I would say within 2 minutes of me being there, I had somebody pull out a mechanical pencil, offer me cocaine to do off their arm. I had everybody trying to hand me joints. I had women literally asking if they could suck my dick.
Right.
I had everybody showing me their tits. Everybody.
Just
everybody.
because they thought you were a cameraman for 98 Rock.
Exactly. Because I was a cameraman.
So imagine
at
when you're
Livestock.
Brett Hatley, Bubba's personal fucking assistant and co-host of the hottest morning show with your own golf cart and fucking and bus.
I can't even begin to imagine. At one
crazy.
point, Vinny came over the headphones to me. He's like, dude, if you show the tits incidentally, that's fine. He goes, but you can't just move the camera
were you
to
just
the tits.
tit central?
Yeah, well,
tit
of
cam.
course.
The crowd loved
I'm
it.
19 years old. I'm getting everybody's just popping on it. I'm getting offered drugs. I'm getting offered blowjobs. I'm getting can we get backstage with you? Everything. I could only imagine what it was like for you guys based upon that little experience that I had.
Oh my God! Talk about the debauchery. Hatley, I wonder what that might have been the most debaucherous stuff that we did collectively.
That was crazy. Those livestocks were crazy. Remember when you brought on the impotent sea snakes? I was on acid and ecstasy at the same time, trolling.
Oh yeah, I never knew where you were or what planet you were on. You were always
you
high
brought
as
on
fuck.
so they brought me up.
Brent would check in with me, be like, "You all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." It's like, "Okay," and I'd be like, "Brent, Brent be like, I'm really tripping right now, but I'm just gonna make sure you're okay." I'm okay.
You brought on the impotent sea snakes. And I went out there and sang the last song with them, fucked up, like People Who Have Died by Jim Carroll. And then after that, our program director had his wife's friend was down from Ohio and ended up having sex with her on the tour bus.
Oh,
You did?
boy.
Yeah.
With Jamie's friend?
Yes.
I was real close to fucking this Pasco County female sheriff. until her FHP boyfriend rolled in.
Oh my God!
I had her all ready to go. Remember, Mike Sierra had to provide me with my own personal security. So they Pasco County Sheriff's Department was the people that did it, right? And remember, Brent, like the Pasco County Sheriff guys, like remember Captain Murphy?
Yeah, and they loved us because
they'd be like, listen, you guys can smoke weed, you guys, because we're making
no violence.
We're making like $80 an hour or some out.
It was crazy how much, and that was the thing at Pasco County Sheriff's was, did you get to work the livestock overtime?
Right.
Like, that was a reward for those guys.
Yeah. So
I couldn't believe what they were allowing to happen. I mean, they were just walking by it.
And listen, Bob,
$80 an hour.
And this was like, I forget, it was Lee Cannon. I don't know who the fuck the sheriff was. Then Bob White was towards the
Lee
last
Cannon.
part.
Yeah.
So anyway, but Lee Cannon would tell the guys, listen, unless you got some real violent shit going on, just tell them to settle down. So I mean, it was just, and this was when marijuana was very illegal. Very. But I mean, the cops, you were just getting high and just all these tits and sucking dick and just doing, it was just crazy.
It was crazy. And Bram gave you one of the biggest buds I've ever seen in my life. And Bubba walks on stage and holds a bud.
I had a marijuana bud that, I'm not kidding you, Brian, was the size of a banana.
It was.
And I walk on, I didn't even smoke weed back then. And I walked live. That was probably what, Brent, maybe 30 grams in itself.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, easily. Bram, It was one of those huge Bram buds.
And I walk on stage in my mouth, and the crowd went fucking crazy.
They went nuts.
And I remember walking off, and the cop goes, hey, man, you might want to not just put all that shit out there like that. All right, he's like, listen, that's a lot. That's a lot of weed,
You
buddy.
put them in a bad spot there because then it's on video and everybody's seeing it. Yeah.
I know,
That's a little different than just doing a joint in front of them.
No. I walked on stage with a fucking, a bud the size of a gorilla's arm, and they still didn't just like, listen, buddy. You just can't boss hog it like that. You got to at least go back over to your RV before you smoke that shit. I'm like, I don't even smoke weed. I was just trying to do it for coolness. He goes, well, you got your point across. So I'm like, all right. It was fun. So, Brian, you were just running the camera a little bit and got offered to head 46 times.
I was blown out of my mind. I didn't know what to do about it or with it. I didn't act on any of it, but because I was a nerd. A nerd. Yeah, I wish I wasn't a nerd.
46.
I would have had a fucking party at that livestock if I wasn't such a nerd.
Yeah, but you were a nerd then. But when you got in college, man, you started dabbling in
it
some
was
stuff.
Really,
did you not?
I really let loose. Yeah, more so in my mid-20s.
You dabbled in some stuff that I don't necessarily want to talk about.
We don't need to talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about real stuff. I want to talk about stuff that almost happened.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I don't want to talk about anything that actually happened.
As we get back to the show, I'm right, you're wrong, or I don't know what the fuck's going on around here. Who does both parties prop up? Like, does the Democrats, Brian, have a real shit show? Like, when's the last time historically?
I do have a prediction of who I think the nominees are going to be.
All right, but hold on. Let me ask you this. When's the last time that the party didn't want the incumbent to run?
It's got to be Carter.
No, Carter got beat.
But I'm saying they didn't want him to run.
But he got to the general the last time.
You're saying didn't get to run?
Yeah, the last time that they
LBJ.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
LBJ in 1968 because Vietnam was a complete disaster.
Well, and he
disaster.
he had taken some social positions that, in addition to Vietnam, that weren't popular.
Well, he passed the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
He passed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, which he predicted that the Democratic Party would lose the South forever for that. He was right about that. But the main reason, what got him
Democrats
out,
won Georgia.
The main reason what got him out was Vietnam in 1968. Once the Tet Offensive happens, that was it for LBJ.
He fucked himself.
He lost the Democrats with that.
All right,
and
so
Nixon
are we at that point
yes.
here?
He shouldn't. First of
and
all,
Brian, I'm asking you that question: are the Democrats at the LBJ 68 point?
Even if Biden was doing well, he shouldn't be up again. You cannot have geriatrics in the most important from the optical perspective of this, right? Let's throw out. I think policy procedurally, Biden could be doing better, but it's never as bad as they're making out to be. But the appearance,
just the optics
of having this guy, this feeble old man running what's supposed to be the most powerful country in the world is not a good look. And so I think for a one-term buffer president to try and return us to some semblance of sanity, which has failed. It's been a failed experiment.
The Build Back Better thing couldn't have been any more of a rib. You couldn't pick fucking three worst. I mean, that's the worst slogan going on right now.
They did finally pass an infrastructure bill, which is long overdue and needed in this country. But that's a policy. That's a wonky policy point that I could get into on that. But no, he can't run again. He cannot be the nominee.
So, Brett,
but you know how screwed up that is? That same poll that you have up there, right there. has Biden beating Trump if they're both up for election.
Wow.
Trump is
same one.
But
Trump
Trump is the only person that Biden could beat.
Yes, in the world.
In the world.
Really?
It's the only one that Biden could beat.
So for real.
I think Biden would lose to El Chapo.
Yeah.
If El Chapo
he would. I think so. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think that and they've started raising money, and there is a plan right now that has been hatched with the governor of California. His name is Gavin Newsom, and the ex-governor of Illinois, his name is Pritzker. And they are planning to run in the primary as running mates with Gavin Newsom as number one and Pritzker number two. And they are planning to run like, hey, we are the ticket that's going to run. I think they are going to get enough money. And it's not going to be able. The Democrats can't do what the Republicans did in 2020, which the Republicans just canceled their primaries so nobody could run against Trump.
Well, didn't just cancel their primaries. Canceled their. We're not going to have a platform.
Nothing.
When we're doing. It was unprecedented.
Yes.
It was very. That's one of the scariest things that have happened.
That most people don't know about.
Politically.
Yeah, they just canceled it. But Democrats on the Democratic side, they do their primaries a completely different way, and there is no way Democratic voters would ever put up with that. So there is going to be a primary.
So they're going to prop up the Newsom guy?
So I think Newsom...
And did he just get recalled too?
No, he won that.
Okay, but
he
still,
won that.
They tried to recall him.
They tried to recall him, and he won. And here's the...
I had a guy tell me from California, it's easier to be recalled than it is to win.
Yeah, it is. He's right. But you know what Newsom's got a long history of? He was way ahead on legalizing weed. When he was the governor of San Francisco, he started marrying gay people before it was even legal. He
might have a chance. He might be the super dim they need.
And he looks good on TV.
Yeah,
that is the other thing. He looks.
How old is he? Like 50?
57, 58.
I don't even think he's that. I don't even think he's that old.
Perfect. So he's in his upper 50s, maybe small 60s when he runs.
No, yeah. He'll be younger than 60.
Brian, are you hearing that scuttlebutt
as
well?
He's 54 now, so 2 years from now he's 56.
That's perfect.
And he looks good on TV. And go watch his appearances on Bill Maher when he's debating people that are Republican pundits, not even politicians, and he's housing them. So on that side, and I think DeSantis is going to be the GOP nominee. I don't see
anybody else.
I don't see Trump beating him.
Newsom. So at the end of the day, Brian, you got
two Gen Xers.
You got two governors from
absolutely two of the three biggest economies.
Right. Yeah. So basically, it's a governor runoff, is what it is.
So
it's a coastal runoff.
And hold on, this answers to this question's to Brian. Then Brent, you follow up. Who wins, just for shits and giggles, who wins that race?
Oh, well, right now, DeSantis, I think, would. Now,
just because
a lot can happen in the next 2 years.
Right.
I mean, if you ask me to predict who's going to win the president, I mean, even our prediction on the candidates could change dramatically.
I understand, but if it's a Newsom DeSantis tickets, you're
with
saying...
the current trajectory of our country, the state of California and the state of Florida, I think that the...
DeSantis wins.
Yeah, the measurables are there for DeSantis to
Hadley,
win.
over to you.
Well, let me give you some stats about California really quick. So number one, this is what, and Gavin Newsom is a political animal. He is really sharp with politics. So Florida has a $21 billion surplus. California has a $98 billion surplus. California has more tech revenue in their state than all the other 49 states combined.
So they're the third biggest economy in the world.
So Newsom's got he's got some crazy cool ass stats too, right?
Well, his state is not in the greatest condition.
California is 40 million people, so you can.
I understand that.
There's lots you can say.
Look, I'm just saying what the talking points are going to be against him.
Yeah, and
San Francisco is a hellhole.
Yeah, that he's going to say, and then he's going to say, look how much revenue we generate. Look how much tax revenue I generate. Here's the problem that Newsom's going to deal with is coronavirus. He predicted that 50 million people would die, and he locked that state down. And people there, that's why he got recalled. People got pissed about that. So there's going to be a debate, lockdown versus Roe v. Wade and the war on drugs. And that is going to be the hot issues. And Gavin Newsom, 2 out of the 3 is right. Ron DeSantis is going to say, hey, look, when I got pressured to shut this state down, I saved people's jobs and their livelihoods.
But here's the deal. people are so fucking tore up over this Roe v. Wade deal.
And guns.
And guns.
Guns is going to be a big...
I mean, they may say, great, Ron DeSantis.
But throw all of that out the window. Let's get down to the brass tacks of this. Where's Gavin Newsom governor?
California.
Where are all the tech companies based out of?
California.
What do you think Gavin Newsom's position is going to be on 230?
So you're saying,
and what do you think he's going to do to protect the
so
tech
what's going to happen
companies?
is the tech's going to suck Gavin's dick because it's California Willie, and Ronnie's going to get it shoved up his ass because he's popcorn fart Florida.
I'm just saying that.
But who do you need to win elections? You need tech companies.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
Brett.
that's what. As I'm thinking this through and taking it out to its conclusion here.
You're right, Brian.
That would be
tech sucking his dick.
That would make him very dangerous as a potential candidate.
If you got tech in your back, I mean not in your back pocket, but I mean absolutely got your back, because
how can you lose?
How can you lose?
How can you lose? If you
got pictures of Ron DeSantis with a fucking goat.
If
you know what I'm saying?
have the social media companies bending their algorithm to your advantage,
you're done.
You can't lose. In this day and age, you can't.
So, and to give you an example of where you're right is look at 80% of our country wanted us out of Afghanistan, right? Yeah. But if you read Facebook and Twitter, you would think that it was the opposite. The public opinion was the opposite. 80% of people were like, get us out of Afghanistan. I don't care right now. But the way that the social media algorithms, because you know what? The defense contractors and the big corporations and people like that, they need war. It's a profitable thing for them. So they bent that algorithm to make it look like 80% of America was against leaving Afghanistan, when that's exactly what we were for.
And the other thing that people don't understand is these defense contractors, look up their subsidiaries. They're just not defense contractors, okay? They are involved in so many aspects of your life. And the war in Ukraine, much the same way, right? The way it's being played out on social media versus in reality, it makes you really wonder what is reality? Who are the good guys? Who are the bad guys? What should I believe? And it makes it tough. It's not easy. Just sitting
in here with you today, guys. You guys have opened my eyes up to a whole bunch of shit that I didn't know about, and I'm genuinely confused as to what I think. And I think the average guy is genuinely confused as to what the fuck's really going on. And who should I vote for? What side of the fence? Because there's nobody that really is saying what I want and what represents me. That you should be 18 and smoking a joint, taking your girlfriend with a handgun to the abortion clinic. Right? There's nobody that represents that.
But you represent 60-70% of the country in that regard. I mean,
know.
that's the problem.
So why don't they have somebody that's super serving me?
Because the system is set up to prevent it from happening.
Exactly. It's set up that way.
Yeah.
It was set up that way starting in 1913 when they created this thing called the Federal Reserve and the IRS, and they learned that it's much easier to control people by controlling your wages and controlling the value of money than it is to control you personally. All this stuff is set up by bankers. This country is set up for rural control. So people were like, "Oh, we should codify Roe. We should do a constitutional amendment." You know what it takes to do a constitutional amendment? First of all, 66 senators. Good luck getting that.
Well,
secondly, you need 75% of states.
So that's constitutional conventions they have to call.
So, hold on, isn't the last constitutional amendment?
You could do it.
Yeah.
Isn't the last constitutional amendment it took 213 years to pass?
Something
it wasn't quite that long, but it took an insane amount of time,
right?
For it to finally ultimately pass.
So when you have
it's impossible,
right? That is the catch-22. When you have 2 senators per state, when you have a state like California and Florida, we have 4 senators between these 2 states.
But Rhode Island's got 2 too.
Rhode Island's got 2. Wyoming has 2. Why are North and South Dakota 2 different states? Really? Yeah. Is that really necessary? They get 4 senators, that few people. So when you have a country that is under rural control, where the bankers can put people like Mitch McConnell in there. Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republican Party in the Senate, is so fucking arrogant. This guy, he has
every right to be.
Yeah, he does.
Because he is the most Machiavellian motherfucker. He has not lost a single fucking war. He does. He may give up some battles and some ground here and there. This
But it's strategic.
motherfucker has won, and the Supreme Court is 100% the making of Mitch McConnell.
Because he plays to win.
For real?
100%.
He plays to win, and what everybody does when
is he a real motherfucker?
He is the biggest motherfucker there is. And I'm gonna tell you right now,
who is
Mitch McConnell, that fucking turtle-looking motherfucker, because he got caught importing cocaine, and they tried to use that against him in a thing called him Cocaine Mitch. This motherfucker printed up T-shirts that said Cocaine Mitch and sold them and funded his campaign. That's him giving a fucking middle finger.
Kind of like a Brian Bosworth did when he played fucking.
Except he didn't hide it. Mitch McConnell printed them up himself and gave you the double tall man. And he said, "You think Kentucky is not going to vote for me when I'm the Republican majority leader and give up that spot for a jobber who's going to go to the back of the line? Yeah, you're out of your fucking mind." This country is set up for those rural senators to control it, and that is what they do, and they're controlled by bankers.
That's why we need fucking term limits in the Senate and the House. We got it in the presidency, right?
No, we're back around to the constitutional amendment, and it's never going to happen because you need 66 senators and 75% of states.
You can't get 66 senators ever again.
In those 75% of states, that would be these rural states having to agree to give up their power.
Like North Dakota would be like, yeah, you know what, we're going to go ahead. No, they're not going to
go
go
for it. The way
for
it should be done is it should be based upon population. So you take whatever,
the House.
Whatever the population is on the census years, you create these geographical areas which still represent, you can still preserve the rural values that people have without have a disproportionate representation in our government. So you could do that, but this is beyond pipe dream shit. This is
never going to happen.
It's magical fucking thinking.
We have a massive civil war. We get set back like 100 years technologically and societally,
we need a major reset before
rebuild.
this shit happen,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
The wheels would completely have to fall off, and the Washington and the White House look like a Kiss concert in order for us to be able to do this.
We're beyond that because the people who have power, the way the system's set up now, if the wheels fall off, they're fine when they get reassembled. They're the ones that are positioned to have the wheels reassembled. They control every lever of every power.
Except the Supreme Court, and look what those fuckers
No, they
did.
control that too.
The Supreme Court's controlled too because 8 of the 9 of them were Catholics. 8 of the 9 of them went to Harvard or Yale. They are controlled by the same exact bankers that control...
Skull and Bones?
They are controlled by the same bankers that control Mitch McConnell. I'm talking about people that you will never know their names. That's who controls this company because they control the value of the currency, and they control the currency. They create money out of thin air.
So I'll give you an example of a recent event that freaked the fuck out of the power brokers, and that would be the AMC stock. It was an example of the majority of people, the common man, getting together, combining their resources, the Bubba Clems of the world, combining their resources.
Are you talking about GameStop? I'm
talking GameStop, AMC stock, all of that.
Yeah.
The reason that freaked them out is they realized that their system, that they thought they had complete control over. Because here's what the hedge funds do, right? Here's what a hedge fund does. So I own... I'm shorting, let's say I'm shorting a company. I want GameStop to fail. I'm shorting their stock. I want them to fail. I'm a hedge fund manager. I also have incredible amounts of investment in companies that hold GameStop's debts. And I can pressure and leverage the companies that I have that hold GameStop's debts to call them in and to put pressure on GameStop and to release reports and control the narrative that will tank GameStop stock and make my short position work.
Right.
I can do that. I can do it legally with the way our system's currently set up.
Right.
So what happened with GameStop and AMC when the Robin Hood created this for them. But then what did Robin Hood do?
Stop letting them trade.
Why? Because Robin Hood is fucking owned by the hedge funds, and they're controlled just the same way.
Right.
We're all fucked. The end result of this is we're fucked because they still know that they have safety valves.
That should be that's the new title of the show. The end result is we're fucked.
And you know what? And that's the crazy truth.
Right or left, we're fucked.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Exactly
Brian,
right.
we're changing the new name.
Yeah.
Because central banking, the Federal Reserve, the International Monetary Fund, all of this shit, all of these bankers have no interest in their country. They have no interest in patriotism or what's good for people. All they give a fuck about is money and controlling the money, and they control your wages. And all of you out there that are sitting in a cubicle and all you guys that are gear jamming down the road and fucking kicking fucking ass, they have figured out if they can take part of your salary, which is for your labor through the IRS, and they can control the value of the currency, as you see inflation going now, when the Fed creates money out of the clear blue sky.
Inflation hit 9.1% for June, the highest rate of 40 years.
Right, because during the pandemic, they printed up all this money and flooded the money supply. That's what causes inflation. They create it through the system called fractional reserve banking, and they create money out of thin air. It's not based on anything.
Well, not just that. They could have prevented inflation by aggressively raising interest rates in conjunction with the printing of the money. But still, that's the Federal
Reserve.
Well, I know it's still the Federal. No, I know. I'm saying they could have. They didn't, which is why when everybody's like, oh, Biden on inflation, yeah, the Federal Reserve, which he does appoint people to, so he does have some level of control, but they're responsible. But this has been a protectionary gag that's been going on since 2009 to
Welcome to the new show, right or left. We're all fucked.
Exactly. And that's
what the new show's called for sure.
And that's the point, Bubba, that they don't want anybody to understand. They want you to argue over race.
They want me to be mad at Brian and Brian to be mad at me, and us over
because
here
if we're mad at each other, we can't
get mad at them.
We can't game stop them.
Right.
If we're not agreeing on basic things, we can't AMC
But if we're not
them.
mad at each other, Brian, and we're like, hey, Brian, you know what?
The biggest fear they have is all of us waking up and uniting.
The last thing they want is all of us, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to be funny, but I'm dead serious. The last thing is they want is all of us eating psilocybin mushrooms. Because as soon as you start doing that, it opens up some parts of your brain, and you see things, you're like, oh, I gotcha. I got exactly what's going on here now.
We should be taking psilocybin mushrooms like we do communion around here.
Absolutely.
Here's another theory that I
just tried them, man. Whoa, they're pretty good.
Here, I'll have to try them.
They make you think.
Brian, I got micro. Yes, well, they're sure right. They're whatever. They're poop pills.
I can't try them if they're not. I can't try them if they're not legal because I'm an attorney for the Florida bar.
We wouldn't put you in that position.
We put in that position. We'll just tell you about. So me and Brent will just tell you how cool they are. I've done some micro dosing, and it's fucking pretty cool.
But they should be legal. There's no reason for them not.
They're going to be legal next.
So here's the thing on the conspiracy theories, too, is that they are housed in truth because we have so much information and technology available to us now. But I personally think that they push them out to the fringe. The power brokers, the social media company, they push them out to ridiculous lengths so that the majority of people won't believe the central message. The central message, this whole great reset thing and all of that, it's not happening the way that they're portraying it, and it makes them sound like wackadoos when they spout off on this stuff. They keep it as a fringe issue, but there are elements of truth to every one of those things that are going on that most people end up dismissing because the people who are espousing them have taken this super far, right or left view on it. But what Brent's saying here today is, and we're saying, is absolutely true.
But we're saying right or left, we're fucked.
Yeah.
The biggest fear they have is us getting together, putting aside our petty differences, our inconsequential differences, and retaking control of our country. They don't want that.
Like for instance, paying attention to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Who gives a fuck about their relationship?
Yeah. Everybody did. Everybody did. It was a distraction, though.
And it took up everybody's time. And while they're taking up everybody's time, we're getting involved in wars in the Ukraine. There's all kinds of banking regulations being stripped away. There's all kinds of things going on while that's going on because they want you to pay attention to nonsense. And the algorithm is there to push nonsense. The algorithm tricked CNN into thinking they had an actual fucking audience and they thought they could start a subscription-based service in less than 3 weeks.
The algorithm tricked CNN to the people who actually fucking wanted CNN Plus, right?
They're all bots, man.
It's all bots and sock puppets.
Everybody that you're reading on the internet, that you got bots and you've got trolls, right? They're bots or trolls. And
most of mine are trolls. I don't got a lot of bots. I got a lot of motherfucking trolls.
Here's a perfect example of being critical about issues and what you're consuming. And this is where your responsibility as a consumer or as the product, I guess, comes into play. There was a case where a kid was street racing on Bayshore Boulevard and killed a mom and a baby crossing the street.
Right.
If you go and look at the social media articles around that, you'll see a bunch of these people with somewhat foreign-sounding names defending the kid, speaking out in his behalf on why he's not. His family.
They went and bought bots. They went and
paid
bought.
and bought
Yes.
and created the appearance that there was this upswell in support for this kid to
Right.
try, because they know the game. This is the game that's being played. So anything.
Same thing with, hold on. Didn't you say, Brian, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Johnny Depp had a stronger
100%.
fucking social media game and strategy than Amber Heard.
He
He won the majority of that based on clips and memes and all. I think he had a full-blown production company.
And let me give you the flip side of that. You know who's been absolutely fucked and it's going to turn out that he's innocent is Marilyn Manson.
Oh, I wouldn't.
He has been absolutely screwed over. He has evidence that the people, the two women accusing him, they forged an FBI agent's letter and forged an FBI agent's signature. They've got an
But you'll never hear
Right.
about that. All you
Because-
heard is that he,
He's the
fucked
bad
some
guy.
girl and she didn't want it, and blah blah blah.
And he did this, and then
And he cut out a rib.
And then when they get into all the stuff that she's saying, I was like, you know what? This sounds a lot like BDSM to me. It really does. So then it comes out. They had a checklist. They start going to his ex-girlfriends with a checklist of things that they need to say. Then what they do to create a social media presence that he's guilty is they call in a quote-unquote welfare check, so the LAPD will show up to his house. And when they show up to his house, they film it, and then they put it out there that he's being investigated for sexual abuse, which wasn't true.
Right.
And then they create this whole narrative that Marilyn Manson's a bad guy.
So the bottom line is they call in a welfare check, then they got Johnny Paparazzi in the bushes that show LAPD just going to his house just basically to check on him to see that he didn't fucking hang himself.
Right.
And they take that
And say he's under
and then they
investigation.
take that and they fucking release it through Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and
Right.
whatever, that the cops are now at Marilyn Manson's house, wondering what the fucker did now, and then boom. I mean, right?
Because
Right.
the truth is whatever everybody else thinks it is these days. The truth is irrelevant. The truth doesn't matter.
And
And then hold on, Trugger guy guy's right. The same thing happened with Bubba and the 6-foot Mingo. Remember Brent when she came out and said I did X, Y, and Z, and the news was all over it. And then
Yes.
2 days later, after I was able to defend myself and show various parts, that was dropped, and it was blah blah blah. It wasn't the lead story on Channel 13 when it was dropped.
right, nobody circled back around to that. I'll give you another one. Bob Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots.
Right.
Remember, everybody said he went to a place that was human trafficking. The prosecutor came out and said it's human trafficking. I got on Stern and I got absolutely killed by everybody because I went in there and said it was absolutely not human trafficking. There was no evidence to.
He got a handy.
He got
jerked.
at a Jack Shack. So after all
Remember
this,
that Jack Shack in Hartford that you and I went to?
Oh, it was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
So they circle back around finally.
They washed your asshole with the scrub brush, remember?
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So they
Sorry.
sorry,
Brian.
So they circle back around, right? So to this case, and the prosecutor ends up having to apologize in front of the judge because the judge is like, "Well, where's the human trafficking charges?" Well, we don't have any evidence of that, Your
Right.
Honor. So it turns out that these women had come over here. They were here in the country legally. They had a 9-month visa, and what they did was they set
The Wild
up,
Orchid, wasn't that what
it
it's called?
is the Orchids of Asia. And what they set up was they pooled their money together. These women pooled their money together, and they did have one guy that they were paying for security. But what happened was the government confiscated their house, their cars, their jewelry, and their cash. And guess who got charged? Only the women. None of the male customers got charged. And guess what? None of them got charged with human trafficking because you would have to say that they're trafficking themselves. It was a bunch of bullshit.
It was clickbait.
But now
Right?
No,
exactly.
it's not just clickbait. There's a reason for this human trafficking
moniker, and now you've got
moniker. There's a reason behind this, and it's
political.
it's law enforcement funding.
It's
It's
law
law
enforcement,
enforcement
and
funding
they
because they're
can-
losing the drug money.
and they can use civil asset forfeiture.
It's civil asset forfeiture allows them to steal your property
now-
and convert it to their own.
And everybody believed that the human trafficking story, because now you got the owner of the New England Patriots name in the paper next to human trafficking.
Right.
Now it's a sellable story.
And a lot of these, a lot of local agencies, and nobody's more law enforcement friendly than we are. Let's just get that, straight. Brent, we got our foundation
You
and
can
things like that.
you can be a friend to cops without having to be a friend to the police military industrial
Right,
complex.
right.
There's
but
two
so-
completely different things.
No,
and
exactly.
most,
Different
most
things.
cops don't want to be part of that.
Right. And so
They're not a part of
but
it,
what
you
some of
know?
what some of these chiefs and what some of these, because not any sheriff that I know, but they will do just an average prostitution sting, okay? The average, he'll have a hotel set up and they'll have, detectives posing as girls.
Right.
and these guys show up trying to get some head or whatever, and then they always, and it's really just simple prostitution and John work is what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it really is.
Run-of-the-mill prostitution.
Right, but they try to loop it in that it potentially might have been a sex trafficking guy, that one of these pimps had 3 girls that were working for him. You know, they always try to, because that's kind of the new buzzword in Leo.
And it's the buzzword quite a bit on the left. Leftist politicians and Ashley Judd and all these people throw sex trafficking into everything, and they act like what goes on the left that really bothers me is the infantilizing of women. Like, they act like women can't make decisions.
Can you say that again? I don't even know what that means.
It means treating women like children. Like they like women.
Can you say the word that you said?
Infantilizing.
I love that.
It makes.
See, that's why Brent's on the fucking show today, ladies and gentlemen.
They act like women can't make choices to be in sex work. Now that I have lots of friends that are women that are in sex work, they want to do it. They like doing it. It's their choice, and they hate being told that, oh, I'm being trafficked. I'm being trafficked. I'm making the money myself. What are you talking about? So that feeds into law enforcement using civil asset forfeiture, and it also feeds into this narrative that women are these China dolls that can't make decisions about their sexuality, which is, again, a way to control women's sexuality from the left. Abortion is the way that they try to control women's sexuality from the right. It is fucking bullshit.
So
women should be able to hook. Women should be able to hook and get fucking abortions.
Bubba, do you know,
absolutely.
Bubba, do you know how the law enforcement agencies use civil asset forfeiture?
They go in and they.
So let's say I'm driving from Las Vegas to Texas back from a vacation.
Right.
And I did pretty good in Vegas. I've got $30,000 in cash on me.
Right.
And I get pulled over by a Texas State Highway trooper.
Boy, you know why I pulled you over there with that fancy fucking
so
Beamer?
I've got a nice car. He suspects. Doesn't suspect anything really, but has reasonable suspicion to believe that I may be engaged in some bad behavior.
Illegal activity.
Illegal activity.
Quote, unquote.
So he finds $30,000 on me. He then says, this must confirm. You must be dealing drugs. You must be doing something illegal.
You're running money for the cartel.
I'm going to charge you with this, right, with this crime. And then I'm going to confiscate this money as evidence, and you have to pretty much prove not that you weren't engaged in crime, that you have to prove
where you got that money from.
Where you got the money from, that it wasn't the source of any illegal activity. The burden of proof falls on you to get your property back when it was wrongfully taken from you to begin with.
I'll do you one better. I know police officers that are in the drug enforcement. I know. Very good friends, and this is how it goes down. They'll get, Jerome that's got, $30,000 on him, and they know Jerome might be slinging some weed or something, and they'll say, hey, Jerome, bottom line is either if you give us this $30,000, you can just walk away, and we got our eye on you, but or you can go ahead and raise a big stink and that stuff, and you know what, we're going to go ahead because we know you got, and then the guy just walks away from it. They just lay down on the deal.
Absolutely.
And that's how they fund a lot of their agency.
Absolutely. There is a great 6-part miniseries on HBO right now by the guy that created The Wire. His name's David Simon. It's called We Own This City. It's a true story about the gun trace task force in the city of Baltimore. If you think The Wire was good, this 6 episodes is better than all of The Wire.
It's called what?
It's called We Own This City.
We Own This City, and it's on what?
HBO.
On a documentary or
no? It's
a drama.
John Bernthal is the star.
Okay.
But it is a real, true story. Like, it is a true story, so much so that a federal judge got pissed and talked about it. Because it shows you, first of all, how corrupt civil asset forfeiture is, and it also shows you we have the cops doing a lot of bullshit when they could be handling actual violent crime and actually helping their citizens. We have them handling bullshit. And it shows...
I want to write that down.
It shows the incentive that the police have to be corrupt. They are incentivized to be corrupt. And in this, you see the guys that are the homicide detectives that are not out there doing civil asset forfeiture, that are actually trying to do the right thing. Solve crimes. And you see the guys, and it's 2 of them versus all this big task force that are out there breaking down doors, taking money, peeling off a little bit for themselves, and then the department is keeping all this money. It is insane what is going on. And David Simon, again, The Wire was his, Homicide: Life on the Streets. Guy makes great television, so it is well worth watching, and it will open your eyes, and it makes you feel for the cops that they're even put in this position.
Yeah. Wow, this has been great. We need to do this more often, and we're going to rename the show not I'm Right, You're Wrong /Left.
We're all fucked.
You're right. I'm wrong. We're all fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. You're red. I'm blue. You're blue. I'm red. I'm right. You're wrong. I'm Democrat. You're Republican. We're all fucked.
Red or blue, we're all fucked.
Yeah, we're fucked.
Yeah, and they need you to be the red team versus the blue team.
That's what they love.
Oh, they
need
do.
that.
They do. They want you to. Because you know what the worst thing would be is if Brian, you, and me, and Brent all got together and say, you know what, motherfucker, I'll give you that one. Then you go, and then all you get on the, yeah, that's cool. Go with that one. Like they don't want all, because look how powerful all three of us are. But if we all hate each other, we're not very powerful.
Well,
right?
You're divided.
But
Exactly.
It's not just that though, because they incentivize us with crumbs, right? They give us crumbs. So your guy wins, right? Well, you'll get a little bit of what I promised to give you. You're not getting all of it, because then what do we have to use against you later on?
You're getting a crumb.
But you're going to get crumbs, and so we, as the mice of people, we eat those crumbs up, and that satiates us. That makes us feel like we got something.
We're so fucking competitive. We just want our guy to win so bad,
right? Because I want to
tribalism.
own the libs, and I want to shove it in their face.
Tribalism is a real problem.
I will tell you, both of you in my world represent a couple of cool things. One, the one thing, and I need to find it by the next time that we three get together, because I like to do this again, get schedules permitting. But during 9/11, when 9/11 was happening, and this is so infamous, our show that we did on 9/11, well, like I think we stayed on the air till at least maybe 1 o'clock, Brent? 2?
It was 2 o'clock. Yeah.
And
no commercials.
Literally. Brent, you might have been the first person, and I have the clip. I got to find a clip for the next time. Brent stood up. I can remember like it was nothing. Brent, you always sat to my right here.
Yep.
You always sat right there, and you were really the only person I could see.
Yep.
Remember, that's how
you had computer screens piled up, so you couldn't see
right,
else.
like I do now. But I actually configured it. I couldn't see anybody but you, and Brent stood up relatively soon, a minute or 2 or 5 after the second tower was hit. And he said this name. Nobody knew it. He said, I'll tell you right now, in his whole Brent Hatley type way, it's way over the fucking top. I'll tell you right now, this is the work of one Osama bin Laden. We're like, who? Osama bin Laden. And Brent, do you remember saying that?
Oh, absolutely.
And we all looked at you like, Brent, shut the fuck up. Like, we don't know what the fuck's going on around here. And then, Brian, you were the one that when we were the last election, a couple Novembers ago, Trump versus Biden.
Yep.
And we were feeling so splendid as all the results were coming in, and we had Brian on the phone. We're like, fuck you, Brian.
I was in the studio here.
You were in the studio.
I was in the studio with you, had Hazlett and a bunch of people.
And we're all in here fucking ringing it in, and Brian be like, I know this isn't the popular opinion. I know this, but it's not over, and I wouldn't be surprised that Dalton County or whatever fucking county of Georgia. Fulton County, and then Maripica.
And it was Pennsylvania, because what I said was Trump at the time, I think we were closing the show around 11 o'clock at night or something
and
like that.
I went to bed thinking there's no fucking way.
Trump was up 300,000 votes, and I think I said to you, he better get that up to 500 to 700,000 votes if he wants to win, because he just spent 6 months telling all of his people, don't vote by mail, go in person, don't vote by mail.
Right, and so Brian...
And that screwed Republicans.
And Brian
completely.
Was like, we were clowning him. Brian's like, I'm telling you, he's going to take Georgia. He's going to barely get Arizona.
Oh, that's what afterwards,
Texas,
too, when I started calling in
Texas
after,
Texas. He said Texas was a crapshoot. We're like, fuck. And Trump did win Texas, but it was fucking barely.
Yeah, it was closer than it's ever been.
No, I studied
Pennsylvania,
this stuff. Like,
it's all coming in for fucking Biden. I'm like, yes. And then you would break down the counties and all that kind of shit. And you were right, bud.
But I studied that stuff like a hawk, and because I'm a poli-sci major, I would love to be a campaign manager if I thought I could actually make a real difference and not be a part of the problem.
You can't.
But I've given
You're helping more people doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You really are. Helping me with my car wreck is far better than, fucking being a politician.
But just seeing the numbers and studying it, I knew what was not like. What
Trump.
Rudy Giuliani said it best.
You knew Trump needed more than he went to bed with because he was the one that deterred mail-in ballot, and mail-in ballots were the only ones left to count.
And the cities and not just that,
big cities.
They didn't. So this is all a part of in my opinion, this was all a part of a plan, because I think he knew he wasn't going to win, And I think he had a very good feeling that he wasn't going to win.
Ashley 25 on the Venmo at the Bubba Army.
when Pennsylvania had the option to start counting the mail-in ballots early, not publishing the results, but start processing them early so that on election night the results wouldn't have looked so skewed, they fought against it. The Republicans fought against it immensely. And that was a trigger to me that revealed to me kind of what their plan was going to be, was to create confusion, incite chaos. I mean, look at what Rudy Giuliani said when he met with the head of the Arizona State Senate. He said, "We have no proof, but we have a lot of theories." That is an exact quote from Rudy Giuliani to him. Just consider that. I know the January 6th thing is divisive, and I don't want to get into was it a coup, wasn't a coup, who did what.
What does it matter?
Let's get into what you were told, what you were sold, and what you believed, and question that. Sidney Powell, her defense right now against Dominion voting systems is that no reasonable human being believed a word that I said. That's her defense against in a lawsuit filed by Dominion Voting Systems against her to her accusations about their fraud.
I think she's gonna get her ass handed to her in court.
She's gonna completely get her ass handed to her. But her defense right now,
I know,
is nobody would reasonably believe the bullshit I was spewing. Yet half the country did.
So and that worked for Tucker Carlson because that defense worked for Tucker Carlson because he says, I'm doing an entertainment-based show.
Right.
Well, it's different, though.
It was completely different. She's saying, I'm an attorney for the president, and there was fraud, and I have proof.
Right. No,
she's an officer of the court saying that.
Yeah, she's going to be disbarred everywhere for that.
And she's going to lose in court. And the thing that showed me that the election wasn't stolen was when the census came out. You can directly see in the areas that flipped to Democrat, you can see the demographic changes that happened in those areas.
Well, the thing I think they weren't counting on either was how massively COVID would change the demographics, because people, yes, we were on lockdown for a few months, but people started getting the freedom to work from home. So you had a city like Atlanta and the suburbs around Atlanta. Somebody could move from Chicago down to Atlanta. Somebody could move from New York down to Atlanta. It doesn't take a whole lot to swing a state. It really doesn't.
So before we were walking in, me and Hatley are out back getting our minds right, and we're hoping we're going to gang up on you. That we didn't know, obviously, that we all have a lot more common ground than we do. But so I'm getting. Brent says, "Have you seen 2,000 Mules?" And I'm like, "Oh no, but I heard, man, it's fucking crazy, man." And Brent goes, "It's all bullshit."
100%.
And I go, "What?" That wasn't what I was expecting from Brent.
Fox News prevented their correspondents from talking about it because they didn't want to get sued again, because they said, we are not mentioning, we're not talking about this. Is a complete, total bullshit propaganda.
So, but that wasn't what I was thinking. Hatley was going to be like. I'm like, Brent, walk me through it. And Brent goes, "Did you know that the map that they tried to show of Georgia was really Brent? Tell me what
was Moscow.
Was really Moscow."
Yeah. There's obvious things in there that are complete bullshit.
I didn't even watch it. I wasn't going to grace it with my eyes. But
did you watch it, Brent?
I've watched it and I've read the breakdowns of it because I wanted to know what everybody's talking about. And
is there any truth to it at all?
No, he's taking cell phone data and saying people went by drop-off points. Like, first of all, of course, that's what a drop-off location does. Secondly,
but these drop-off locations are in very
high traffic areas anyway.
And cell phone data is not like totally exact. It can tell you like a circle that I'm in.
Yeah.
But some of these drop-offs were in buildings that are 20 stories high.
What about
how
some
can
of
you tell what floor? The cell phone data doesn't show you how high up in the air you were when you were at that building.
What about some of these articles that you're seeing that this person got this many years for election fraud, or is that all just clickbait stuff, or is it really happening?
No, the election fraud, almost every single conviction has been of a Republican who voted twice for Trump.
Oh, my bad. I'm so sorry.
And one of them was a guy who's like, the Republicans go, we've got a dead mother voting. Yeah, the guy voted for Trump and he had his dead mother vote for Trump. Like, it was
you know the other big bamboozle that Tucker Carlson just tried to pull?
I don't fuck with my boy Tuck.
No,
This
I'm
is
sorry,
a pro-Tuck show.
This is, and you can be pro-Tuck, but he's admitted
he's pro-Tuck too.
He's an entertainment show, and
you've got to take it that way.
This is entertainment. Biden,
and we're entertaining as well.
Yeah,
Biden is selling our strategic fuel reserve supply to the Chinese to help Hunter. That's what was put out as fact. Okay, now I looked into this. I had no idea. I'm going to admit I had no idea how the strategic oil supply, reserve supply worked in this country. I knew what it was generally, why it exists. Didn't know the ins and outs of it. So
But you looked into it.
I looked into it because I'm like, that's a pretty outlandish.
That's what you and Hatley
claim.
do.
That's a pretty outlandish claim,
Let's
right?
see if that's true.
But
when I don't know something, I ask Blitz.
Or the problem is some people just believe Tucker, right? They don't take this next
my mom.
step.
Oh my God, my mom.
Because he's he is good at TV.
So there it is true. A Chinese company based out of Houston bought 1 million barrels of the U.S. strategic reserve supply. But here's how the system works. So the Department of Energy opens up the ability to apply for a license to be able to bid on strategic reserves when they're opened up for auction. And so very few companies have the right to do that, but you have to have the ability to refine. You have to show these certain check boxes that you're a company that's able to do this and you're open for the strategic supply. So the Department of Energy does an auction, and the barrels that they're selling, it's 32.4 sweet crude with 1.4% sulfur rating, right? So it's the quality of the oil that they're bidding on, and the barrels, which I didn't even know there was all these different qualities. You have like light sweet crude, you've got light crude, sweet crude, medium crude,
Brent crude.
Brent crude. Some will say Brent's crude. I love Brent. So
they do have a crude called Brent crude.
No, it's actually worth more than the regular crude.
It's a little higher than the average crude.
Higher.
It's a little higher than the average crude.
So
refined kid from Mississippi.
So they auctioned it off. And whichever one of these pre-approved companies bids on it, they get it. The U.S. has no control or say with what that company does with it after they win it and what they do with it, and they cannot limit the license process at this stage. Now, you can change the law if you don't like it to prevent any foreign-owned company from having any ability to bid on it. Here's the problem with that. The idea behind it right now is to get this oil refined and into the market so that the gas prices can come down. Our refineries, which is a separate issue, Biden is partially responsible for, I will say partially responsible for, based upon his policies and his statements, partially responsible for the pullback of refinery capacity in our country. But it's been happening for years. This isn't something new. So we're at capacity for these refineries. I mean, we only have
and we've had some that have been destroyed and not rebuilt because there's some stiff EPA regulations.
Right. There's a lot going on with it that could be better, and I will admit that it's not all Biden's fault. But he didn't sell oil to the Chinese to help Hunter Biden. He had nothing to do with the process. It's a process.
I guarantee you, Biden can't even explain the process the way that you just explained it.
No, he can't explain.
There's no
he
chance
can't explain his ABCs like that.
And so,
how stupid is he?
He is a career politician who's been sucking off the public's hind tit for decades. He has never solved a problem. I don't know how anybody can think he's going to solve a problem. He's made problems worse over and over and over again throughout his whole career, including for black people. Like, I can't stress that enough. He has really screwed black people over.
All right, so let me ask you a question. This goes out to both of you. And we've all determined that the new show is called "We're All Fucked."
Yeah.
Red, blue, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian. We're all fucked.
Fucked.
And we talked about that. So, but like, if you had to give me a list of 3 politicians, either governors, congressmen, or senators, that you actually have a tad of respect for, who would they be? And Brian, you go first, and then Brent, you go.
Katie Porter out of California.
I do like her, actually. She's from Orange County, California.
Get 3 of them. Katie, okay, you give me one. Now,
3's going to be tough.
Brent, okay, 3's going to be tough. You're Brian, Katie Porter, Democrat out of California.
Mm-hmm.
Brent, next to you.
So he just left Congress because he was a Republican and he left the party. His name is Justin Amash, and he's out of Michigan. He is now officially part of our party. He is officially a libertarian now, but Justin Amash was definitely my favorite member of Congress recently.
And another good one who's left, and was on both sides of the aisle at one point or the other is David Jolly, who does a radio show actually on 820. He was a good guy. And then
is he out now, though?
He's out now.
Well,
Charlie Crist has his seat now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which we hope might be Kevin's.
Well, actually, they
redrew the districts.
They fucked him, didn't they?
Well, no, they helped Kevin, and they just folded downtown St. Pete into Kathy Castor's district.
That's the other repercussion from this Supreme Court is that gerrymandering is essentially the biggest one is the case out of North Carolina, and if they determine, if the Supreme Court could determine that individual states, no matter what their policy is for the awarding of electors, can change their mind and do whatever they want. And so in a minute here, elections may not matter at all.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
So what Trump tried to do in this last election was, once people vote on president, states certify the election and they send what's called a set of electors to the
Each party has their own set of party loyalists who are their designated. This is such an archaic fucking system.
It really is.
First of all, we need to modernize it. There's no electors. It's just fucking points. You get the points.
Right.
No human being has to go and physically say,
Nobody
the people from the proud state of Florida.
Right. So what Trump tried to do in this last election was have an quote-unquote alternate set of electors, a fake set of electors. They sent it to Pence and said to Pence, go with this set of electors.
Right.
Instead of going with what the state certified. You know who Pence talked to that told him you can't do that? Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle was like, dude, you can't.
And they're both Indiana.
He's like, dude, you can't actually do that.
Pat Cipollone is a true American patriot. I think he actually should get the Presidential Medal of Freedom for sticking in
trivia question.
For
What
sticking
two
in that
cities
White House and fighting
What
for
two cities
the
of
Constitution.
Indiana is Dan Quayle and Pence from?
What two cities? Oh, wow, that's a good one.
That's fucking Bubba Clem, Hoosier
That's
hysteria.
That's a good one.
Dan Quayle is from Huntington, Indiana, and Mike Pence is from Columbus, Indiana.
Wow. I did not know that.
Fucking Hoosier.
But that's who Pence picked up the phone and called first about that whole deal was Dan
Dan Quayle
Quayle.
goes, if you could tell me how to spell potato, I'll tell you how to fucking roll on this to it here, buddy.
Yeah, and Dan Quayle was like, dude, you can't do that.
So Donald wanted
Donald
Pence.
sent alternate sets of electors and wanted Pence to recognize those and not the ones that were certified by the state. So what Brian,
it's not even legally that you could be able to do that.
That's what's in front of the Supreme Court.
But wait, because there's a case that's going to be coming, and I forget the name of it, and I think it starts with an M. One of the parties is M, one of the parties is H, letter H, but you can look it up, where if, depending on how the Supreme Court rules, there could be an implication or a direct statement that states are completely in charge, and state legislatures are completely in charge of how. So what you can end up having is, once the results of the election are in, the Secretary of State wants to certify them. The legislature says, nope, we're not doing that. We're going to vote. We're going to change the outcome of the election and to favor whatever that party wants. And this is what we're sending to.
So they're going to put it like, okay, the Electoral College doesn't mean anything. What you're going to do is, after each election, then we're going to have another little fucking meeting in the state chambers and determine who the fuck the state goes to.
They could give the state that option.
They could give them that
option and that power.
That's
where right
bullshit.
now
That
they
doesn't
don't
even
have
represent
that.
what the people want.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Which this
You
is
think
how
we're bought and paid for now?
But here's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my concern with this Supreme Court is they are religious zealots. They are
every one of them,
every single one of them.
Tom Bean said it best. What's happening now is the Supreme Court is fucking showing their ass.
They're drunk with power.
But here's the problem with it is they know they're in the minority. Okay, they know that they can't keep what they're trying to do in place if free and fair elections are had. So my fear is to keep their agenda in place. They're going to make terrible rulings like this one could be that will have. I mean, essentially, our country is our democracy is complete. What semblance we have of it.
Since when did the Supreme Court run the country?
They've had a lot of power and influence for a long time.
I've never known them to be this much
because we haven't had a 6-3 court in a long time.
And you know what? It goes back to that dick that we were talking about, Mitch McConnell. And here's what he did: he played the long game. And here's where Republicans outclassed and outsmarted the Democrats. Here's what the Republicans did. They started all the way down at the ground level, at the city council, county commissioner level, and they built their power from that level up.
100%.
While the Democrats are hanging out, jerking off George Clooney in Hollywood, Republicans are getting people elected at the local level.
No, he realized when Obama
You're
got
right. When they're
Obama
jerking off George Clooney, we're getting the fucking guy, the mayor of St. Pete to work. Right?
We're getting the mayor of St. Pete. We're getting the sheriff. We're going to get the district attorney.
Yep.
Then we're going to get the state senators, and we're going to get the House, and then we're going to get the governor, and then we're going to write fucking state laws any way we want. And how do you like that? And Mitch McConnell is the one that came up with this whole fucking plan, and he's giving the finger to everybody now, saying, what are you going to do about it? Because nobody in Kentucky is going to vote me out, and I'm the leader of the Republicans, and you need 60 senators to do anything, so You can smile and fucking blow me.
Yep. No, it's 100% right. He knew that if he could win the court, and that's why he blocked. I mean, the blocking of Merrick Garland
was ridiculous. And first of all,
absurd.
First of all, Obama took that way too lightly.
Pussy.
He took it way. He should have.
Flipped the fuck out on that deal.
He should have sued because it says in the Constitution that they have a job to advise and consent. He should have said.
He should have filed, absolutely, Merrick Garland or him should have filed a lawsuit that would have gone before the Supreme Court, and they would have been able to determine whether or not McConnell is forced to take that issue up. He said that Obama's it was 10 months left in his presidency. He said he's a lame duck president. He's already had 2 Supreme Court justices. He doesn't get a third.
It doesn't. That doesn't even. It's not even a thing.
It's not a thing.
It's not even a thing. It's not even in the Constitution.
Not even a rule. It's not even a rule. Is if you're still the president, you can appoint nominate who you want.
Whoever you want, and it's the Senate's job to advise and consent. And McConnell looked Obama in the face and said, "I'm not even giving you a hearing." And at that moment, Obama should have said, "You know what? I'll see you in fucking federal court, buddy."
Force them to take it up and act on it.
So Obama pussed the fuck out.
He big time pussed the fuck out.
And I don't know why.
Now listen, Brian. Do Democrats know that? Do Democrats know that Obama fucked up on that deal?
I mean, ones that care and
no, people that are as smart as you and Hadley.
No, yeah, people like Brent and I know, but the average Joe on the street,
I didn't know.
I
didn't know that Obama had one of his Supreme Court nominees shoved up his ass and told they weren't going to do it. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's who Kavanaugh got that slot.
Yep.
And he's
when's the last time? What lifetime? What era? What year? What presidency was the last time? Was it 6-3?
God, it's been not in any time in our lifetime. Yeah.
Not any time in our lifetime.
Not any time in our lifetime.
50s to 30s. I don't even know. And
has it ever been 6-3?
I want to say that it has.
I think with the Warren Court it may have been, but I'm not exactly.
Hey
sure.
Siri, when's the last time the Supreme Court had a 6-3 Republican majority?
But even before
Republican or any
majority,
conservative, I guess you would have to say.
But Brian, you can even.
All right, hold on. Sorry, go ahead. Shut up, bitch. All right, go ahead, guys.
So the thing is, the Supreme Court, yes, they were conservative.
The Supreme Court is at its most conservative now from the last 75 years.
Yeah.
I said 1950s.
Yeah, you did.
The last time.
Yeah. But even when they were conservative, right? Even when they were conservative, they still took pride in their rulings, and they took pride in the way that they ruled, and they were appointed for life, and they thought of themselves as kind of above this left-right fray.
Right.
And you see that in some of their rulings, like Justice Black and his First Amendment rulings, and he was a
stare decisis meant something.
It did. It absolutely like precedent.
Stare decisis means let the decision stand.
Yeah.
So it means don't mess with it. You know, I don't agree with it. I think it's not right, but it's the way the law has been decided, and so we're going to let the decision stand.
Unless it's egregious, like Plessy v. Ferguson, that had to be overturned by Brown v. Board of Education. But that is a good reason to turn over something that is obviously wrong and obviously unconstitutional and obviously goes against the 14th Amendment. It is ridiculous now that every one of them, 8 of the 9 of them went to Harvard or Yale, 8 of the 9 of them are Catholic, and the other one's an evangelical. They are all 9 religious nuts. And none of us have ever voted for one of them.
Nope.
And that is a huge problem. And we have the rural control of the Senate. And their job, as it states in the Constitution, is to advise and consent. And Mitch McConnell said, "I'm not going to do it. And what are you going to do about it?" And nobody did anything.
And he knew that they weren't going to do anything because the Democratic Party is a bunch of feckless, powerless. Chuck Schumer is maybe the worst thing for the Democratic Party ever.
He's weaker than Harry Reid. I don't know even how that's possible, but he is.
And he's against this Goliath Machiavellian motherfucker who comes from the state of Kentucky, looks like a turtle, is inarticulate, and yet is somehow really the most influential man in America.
Oh, by a long shot.
Yes.
By a long shot. And Mitch McConnell.
Why didn't he run for president?
Because he knows that that's not where the power is.
Because he has more power than the president.
As the president of the Senate, he controls everything that happens in this country.
Well, I mean, Pelosi is she's the president of the House.
She's the Speaker of the House. She doesn't have near what Mitch McConnell has.
I just found another article that was dated July 5th, which is even more recent than the other one. It says that the Supreme Court is the most conservative in 90 years.
Yeah.
It's probably all true.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's even just beyond conservative. They have a specific religious agenda that they are trying to force down the throat.
They want to eliminate the separation of church and state.
Being agnostic, borderline atheist, but agnostic nonetheless. I mean, that's exactly how I describe myself. More agnostic.
Fair. I mean, that's actually the most fair because nobody actually
I'm
knows.
agnostic as well.
I'm
I
agnostic
lean towards. But at the end of the day, something started something, right?
Right. So I mean, listen, I don't necessarily.
Matter did not just appear.
I'm not like your mom, Brett, and I believe in Jesus and God and all that stuff. But I'm not. I think that maybe there might be something, but I don't know what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of what
I think that's the. I think
that's a very safe position to take,
and it's the most honest position to take because nobody actually knows. I'm an atheist because I'm a real arrogant dick, and I think that. What's in the 99.99999% percentile?
Right.
This is all a random set of events, and you're going in the fucking ground.
That's exactly kind of how I feel. I feel that when it's over,
I lean
it's
towards
over.
that heavily, but intellectually, right? And it may be my inability to think broader, and maybe if I took some psychedelic mushrooms, I could see this. Let's say the Big Bang or whatever theory you want to go with. What caused that?
Well, we don't know yet.
Right. We don't know yet. And
here's
so
the deal.
because we don't know yet, right, the fact that there could be this higher power, but then what made that higher power, right?
Yeah, like even the child knows if God made everything, who made God?
Yeah. Like those questions keep rising.
But hold on. So I'm agnostic. I think that our generations are becoming less like Brent's mom, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. Your mom's heavy evangelical.
Correct.
Am I right?
Correct.
Very much so. I guess, in fact, it's caused huge strifes in your family.
Correct. Well, she's finally resigned to the fact that we're getting along good now because she finally resigned to the fact that
she's not going to change
that
it.
you're a lost cause.
No, but like she loves you as a mother, but there have been, your dad and you and her are all been battling over your very, very nonsensical and yet, very educated and well-read religious decisions. You're far more well-read than your mom. You haven't. Your mom it comes from the era of when they indoctrinated, religion into you,
especially in the South. But
that being said, the younger generation, I think, is becoming less evangelical and less like your mom, and so you would think that the people that govern our lives would be less evangelical, and it seems like they're more than it's worse than they were in the fucking 50s.
Oh, you got that 100% right.
It's like we're getting
because they're angry because it's worse than it was in the 50s because they've had
more people aren't buying their bullshit.
They've had it shoved down their throats for 70 years now. And so the social revolution of the 60s and into the 70s that's the point at which now they're like, oh, okay, now it's our time to shine. And so
now they feel like they got to really, really, really make some huge decisions, big time knee-jerk decisions to right the ship, so to speak.
We're so far down the road that they're yanking us back, and the distance they have to pull us back is so fucking far.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
We just need a regular collar. We don't need a choker.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But to them, the choker doesn't work. It's not enough. And as Brent said, it's never enough. It's never enough for the theocracy. It's never enough for them. And they're going to continue to put. And there is not going to be anything to stop them because the Democrats are not united.
Because the system is set not to stop them.
Well,
right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
If it starts costing the true power brokers a tremendous and inordinate amount of wealth and destabilization, then maybe something will be done.
But Brent, how many did you say went to Harvard?
So 8 of the 9 went to Harvard or Yale.
But don't you think that in itself is a problem?
And the other one went to Notre Dame. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
I mean,
absolutely.
Like the Supreme Court's supposed to be the ultimate checks and balance of our country, is it not?
Yes. And
not the most bought and paid for.
Correct. And the thought-wise, that is the least diverse group of people because they were all taught by the same people.
If you look at, right. If you look at the Supreme Court, what's both ends of the spectrum? Who's the kookiest right and who's the snowflakest left?
I think Sotomayor would probably be the most left at this point.
Sotomayor's the most left, and the kookiest right is by far Clarence Thomas.
For real?
Oh, 100. He is
insane.
His wife is completely batshit. She was trying to overturn the election.
Yeah. So Clarence Thomas, when
was he a Reagan appointee?
He was
Reagan.
Yes, he was a Reagan appointee.
And like Brent said, he was bolstered and helped out by Biden.
Biden was the head of the Senate.
Biden's a big Catholic.
Yeah, Biden is a huge Catholic, a pro-life Catholic.
Didn't he look at Long Dong Silver and have pubic hair on a coke can?
Yeah, and Anita Hill, this woman has a law degree. She's a lawyer. She is articulate. She was working at the Justice Department, and she actually did want to make a difference. She's a really good person deep down.
They spun her out to be a kook job.
Right. She comes forward to say that this guy sexually harassed me. This guy is a maniac, and but the Republicans not only stuck up for Thomas, but Biden went hard at this woman.
It helped her a lot that somebody from the left was coming at her and pretty much defending Thomas over this.
Yeah, I mean, that probably just pretty much gave Thomas all the approval he needed when he had a Democrat that was calling her kook job, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Biden, that's when he was, a senator for Vermont or whatever
he was
from?
Senator
Delaware.
from Delaware, and I believe he was the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. So it was on him how that hearing went anyway. And on top,
and you know what?
It was a 52 to 48 vote.
But what a lot of people don't realize today, and Brian, if there's one thing that I learned from you and Brent today, and that is the fact that I didn't know Obama could have gotten a Democratic, justice on there. One nominated by him.
He was actually Bush.
And that was Bush.
It was Bush, but the what's even crazier about it?
No, about the guy that Obama didn't fight for.
The Democrats had 57 seats in the Senate at that point.
And Thomas got on.
And Thomas got on because 11 Democrats switched sides. He barely passed 52-48, but 11 Democrats voted with the Republicans.
And Biden
on him.
was the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee
at that time.
that held
So
the
hold
hearing.
on. So did Obama not have that? Was Bush?
No. So Obama, what he had was Mitch McConnell was in charge of the Senate. So Mitch McConnell just said flat out, no, we're not even going to hold a hearing.
In January or February, he said, well, you're not getting a hearing from our Senate on your nominee. We're going to let it be an empty seat, which created
some havoc.
Because you can't have 4-4 decisions.
Right.
Because what happens in that instance is the lower court ruling stands, but the Supreme Court essentially hasn't rendered an opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So hold on. So isn't there like a rule where within a certain amount of period of, if you're the president, and like what's the process take to get a person nominated and confirmed? What is that?
So on the
couple months.
So in the Constitution, it says the Senate's role is to advise and consent. So the Senate has to hold a hearing. The committee, the Judiciary Committee votes. It goes out of committee and it goes to the full Senate, and it's just a straight up or down vote. So what Mitch McConnell did was.
But isn't that only a few months?
Yeah, it could be a few months. It could be they could get it done in a month if they want.
I mean, they could get it done in what Comey Barrett was pushed through
days.
That's what I'm saying. So Obama couldn't say, "Motherfucker, you say I only got 11 months left, but bitch, no, I have the ability as the president to sue you,
right,
and to put up a fight and get my guy through, because really at the end of the day, it's my pick, and you're supposed to advise
and consent, and that's the thing that Obama got wrong was by McConnell saying I'm not even going to give you a hearing. That's a concrete statement. You can bring into court and saying he's violating the Constitution.
Yes, he's refusing to hold up his oath.
And now who would have heard that argument?
First, it would have gone to the federal court in D.C.
Yeah,
it would have gone to the federal court.
It's an emergency injunction.
It's an emergency injunction.
Well, if it goes to the federal court of D.C., Obama wins that one,
and then it goes to the Court of Appeals in D.C.
and he wins.
That one.
And then it goes to the Supreme Court, and it's 4-4 there.
And so it goes down to the local level again.
No, it would was split 4-4. It doesn't mean the court would rule 4-4.
If the court rules 4-4, then it goes back to the lower court decision.
It stays to the lower court. Yeah. If it was tied, he would have won this.
Right, there's no way for him to lose because he would have won on both lower courts, right?
Correct.
Then it goes to the Supreme, it splits, now it goes back to the lower court, and he won that.
Yep.
Correct.
Boom, suck my dick, Mitch McConnell.
Right.
My fucking person's getting in, and now we're not in the fucking conundrum that we are today.
Then McConnell decides how much of a constitutional crisis he wants to create, because how do you force him to do that? The court has told him. Now, does he get held in contempt of court? It is an injunctive order. So then that gets really interesting. Like, how much does McConnell want to fight? But we should have seen that play out.
And you got to fight McConnell because McConnell is not going to give an inch ever.
It could have ended his career. That could have been the death knell for McConnell, because if he's still refusing and he has to be arrested or held in contempt and arrested for failing to comply
that
with
just
the
shows you how
district
much of
court's
a
order.
fucking pussy Obama was.
That's exactly right. Obama
was constantly worried about his own legacy.
Correct.
See, that's
rather
bullshit.
than
The
what
Democrats
he
need to take
could
a hard,
have
long
done.
look and say, we're in this fucking spot because of fucking Barack Obama. Do you ever say that?
I have constantly said that Obama shied away from race relation and racial issues, which led us to, in part, to where, not wholly, again, partially, he could have done so much more, but he did not want to be known as the militant black guy.
Right.
He did not want to be known.
So he fucked his party.
He
did.
He was more concerned about his own legacy than he was.
Instead of let's go, Brandon, they should be thank you, Barack Obama, you fucker.
Right, because Obama was worried about his legacy, and I get a Netflix deal after this, and I get
that's
paid
all part of his legacy,
$2 million per speech. Like he those were all his calculations. I'm going to ride off into the sunset, and none of this is going to affect me.
He didn't want the fight with McConnell because then that becomes
dirties him
his
up
legacy.
It dirties him up
a lot, yeah, and that is.
And so meanwhile, he doesn't fight McConnell, and McConnell deep down says, "You know what? I got you, bud." And they play cool together, right?
Yep. And that
McConnell gets a big victory.
They make deals, right? This is all about making deals.
It's just like fucking House of Cards, but worse.
So Biden just made a deal with McConnell. Biden just agreed
this is ridiculous.
to appoint a pro-life DCA judge.
In Kentucky.
In Kentucky, in exchange for McConnell finally allowing, pulling off and allowing his appointees, all of Biden's appointees to get approved.
But not even judicial appointees.
No,
They're only
all.
but they're appointees. The deal Biden made was for appointees for jobs at the Justice Department.
Yeah.
They're not even lifetime appointments.
Yeah.
So you're trading a lifetime appointment from a pro-life judge, which Biden is pro-life. Let's be honest. From a pro-life judge,
this isn't much of a concession by Biden.
He's given him a pro-life judge for a lifetime appointment for two things that are not a lifetime appointment. It is that was the deal he made when he thought nobody was looking. And then this road decision comes down. And he's like, oh no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that Schumer did, this is how weak that guy is.
Oh, he's the worst.
Here's what Schumer did while Trump was president and Schumer had the ability to hold up federal judges. He made deals after deal after deal with McConnell to massively let all these guys onto the federal bench.
Yeah, no, because here's the thing: is the you can say what you want about Mitch McConnell. He
wins.
He's principled in his position, and he is not going to take his eyes. The problem with somebody like Schumer is he doesn't have the principles. He doesn't have the scruples that McConnell does, and McConnell is committed to his endeavor, and they'll take little victories because they're not concerned with the big picture. That's why somebody like McConnell at this point in history is so dangerous.
Does he basically run the GOP?
He runs the
country.
He absolutely runs the GOP because you know what? Those 50 senators
they fall in line.
Mitch McConnell whips those senators like nobody ever has in the history of the. I mean, you do not. If you're a senator, I don't care what state you come from. If you're a Republican senator and you go to Washington D.C., you do what the fuck Mitch McConnell tells you to do.
Period.
Because he's the one.
You know who didn't? John McCain, because he knew he was on the way out. And so he
had fatal brain cancer. So he was like, "What are you going to?
What can you possibly do to me now?" And that's why he.
Plus McCain
he stopped the ACA from getting completely repealed, which would be without a replacement plan. ACA is not great. Okay, it's a boondoggle to the insurance industry. I get all that. It ain't great, but please, for the love of God, can we get some other plans in place before we go tearing down let's tear down. This home sucks. This home sucks. We need to tear it down. Well, where are we going to live after this? We'll worry about that after we tear down this house.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but as the senators that want to keep their jobs and have a career in politics, they do what McConnell says.
It's also easier because the Republican Party is not a party of great nuance. The Democrats get caught up in so much nuance and
it doesn't matter.
Bullshit that doesn't matter.
Republicans understand the number one rule in politics. There's the number one rule in politics is this: win first.
Yep.
Because losers don't govern.
Yep.
That is the rule that Mitch McConnell understood, and he started at the bottom and built it from the bottom up, and that's why he has the most power in this country, and that's why you can't do shit about it unless there is one answer. There's only one answer.
The only answer would be somebody to beat Mitch McConnell, but nobody's going to run against that motherfucker.
You can't beat him in Kentucky because that would be Kentuckians giving up their power.
He just won by a margin that is almost inconceivable. So given the Democrat,
like Grady Judd type margin.
So Brian's right. Kentucky elected a Democratic governor and still elected Mitch McConnell
by 35. He didn't just win; he won by like 35, 40
points.
So
how do you beat him?
Against a war veteran, like a great candidate on the Democratic side. She wasn't a bad candidate.
Oh, she was great.
She wasn't super liberal.
No,
she was perfect for the state of Kentucky. McGrath.
She was a Marine Corps pilot.
Yeah, Marine Corps pilot.
I like her.
Yeah, she was really good.
Yeah,
but
got murdered.
But give it to me.
Here's how you win. There's only one way.
to get McConnell out.
There's only one way to take control of this country back.
He gets in a sex
The
scandal.
rural white America has to be gentrified by city folk. So we need everybody in big cities to move to places like Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and Cleveland, Mississippi, and
He's right,
Gadsden, Alabama, because
the consolidation and with gerrymandering now, it's going to make it impossible for Democrats to win at the state level.
Because all the smart people move to big cities because that's where the best paying jobs are. There's
Right.
nothing and no jobs out in rural America, but what they do have is they have control of the Senate, and because of that, they have control of the Supreme Court. And if you want to change that, what you need is big companies to move their headquarters to places like Mississippi and have a bunch of people move there, because that will flip the balance of power in those states.
Yeah, no, he's right. It's a generational task.
It's a 20-year plan at best.
And you have to convince somebody who's living right now in Miami that Murfreesboro is a great spot to raise
in
their
our lifetime,
family.
we're all relatively within 10 years. I think, Brian, you probably are the youngest. What are you, Brian?
I'm
30?
40.
You're 40. Britt,
Just turned 40.
51.
Britt's 51. I'm 56. So we're all within 10 years or so. And like during
16,
during our lifetime, is it ever going to get any? Are we fucked
Yeah.
for the rest of our lives?
We are, because for the reason that Brian said, like the reason I said is that theoretically a way that you could fix it.
Yeah.
But the thing is you got to convince people, and this is what I learned in Manhattan.
Convince people. How about convince fucking 20-year-olds who are pissed off when something isn't done right this second?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. That's the other thing.
But you got to convince people, and I learned this in Manhattan. There's lots of smart people don't have kids.
Yep.
And you got to convince people that don't have kids and expendable income, people that want to live in places like St. Petersburg, Florida, to move to bumfuck Alabama.
How many kids do you have, Brent?
0.0.
How many kids do I have? One.
I am not interested.
I got one kid who hates me.
That you know of.
Sorry.
I'm not interested in not living in St. Pete. I'm not interested in living in these shitty rural southern states. I come from one of them.
You're not going to move to Hattiesburg.
I'm not moving to Hattiesburg. I'm not moving to fucking western Louisiana where the Raging Cajuns are, none of that shit. I'm living by the beach for tits and ass. And so that's the problem, is the jobs are in New York City. The jobs are in Los Angeles. The jobs are in San Francisco. If you're in tech, they have more revenue than all the other 49 states combined in tech. That's where the jobs are. The only state that's even going to come close to flipping to blue, besides Georgia, because Stacey Abrams figured out how to put together a voting plan for African Americans and get them to the polls.
Does Georgia go back red for 2024?
2024, it could
maybe, but I don't think
the
so.
Demographics suggest otherwise.
Yeah,
it would take a pretty
How about Arizona?
significant event.
Same thing with the demographics in Arizona. The demographics in Georgia and Arizona changed. The demographics.
Well, people are fleeing California to Arizona,
correct.
so you're
That's
getting
gonna blow it.
and the old people who retire in Arizona are dying.
Yes.
So
yes.
those homes are being bought
How
up by
about how about
Texas.
Wisconsin?
Texas is the next big state to flip.
That's what I was going to say. The next one that's going to flip, because the demographics.
Hold
Florida
on,
will
Texas
always be-
goes blue?
Because
Yes.
here's why.
in the next 10, 15 years.
Here's why, because they've kept minorities from voting in Texas for a long time. Because if all the minorities there that want to vote were allowed to vote, because they have some very strict voting laws in Texas. If the minorities...
Man, you look a little too tan there, Leroy. You can't vote.
There's all kinds
seriously.
of little tricks they do in Texas to
Poll watching.
And I'm being
Yeah.
obviously facetious, but it's bad. I mean,
Yeah.
Roe versus Wade is about a guy named Henry Wade,
Yep.
and who was a Dallas prosecutor who was, if you're an African-American man and you were you lived within a mile of anything that happened, they would come fucking lock you up in the 60s.
Absolutely.
Period. And I think he killed... Brent, I think this is one thing I'm fairly well read up on. I think he killed like 10 or 15 that they've now proved innocent African-American men on the death penalty.
Well, they definitely... There was a white guy. His name was Cameron. I'll give you the case. Cameron Todd Willingham got convicted by a guy named Douglas Mulder, who worked for Henry Wade, and they convicted him based on... Here's what Henry Wade would do in court. He would get you into court. And Brian will tell you this. There's an exception to the rule where you have to turn your witness list over to the defense. And the exception is if a witness pops up that you didn't know about before, that witness can be allowed. It's funny because Henry Wade and his office, run by a guy named Douglas Mulder, did that in almost every single
pop-up
case.
witness?
Oh, we didn't know
It's
about
trial
this
by
witness.
ambush is what we call it. It's
Yeah.
trial by ambush. There's rules to prevent that from happening.
And these judges in the Dallas area would allow it almost every single time.
And so all of a sudden, man, this here guy saw what we didn't have it on it, but now we do. And he
Right.
saw that black guy pull the trigger.
Yep. And that he would do that, and there were so many wrongful convictions under
And
Henry Wade.
he was very racist. And if you were
Super
a black
racist,
guy
yeah.
within, a mile of you could have been eating dinner with your a family with 5 witnesses, and a white woman got raped 3 doors down, and your entire family saw you. Everybody else, nope.
No,
They'd lock your ass up.
And he would pop up a witness that says that you were during the trial to say that you were there, and then the defense would say, "I didn't get this witness.
I haven't had a chance to question this witness. I haven't had a chance to look into their anything."
And they would, well, Your Honor, we just found out
about it this morning.
Right.
And the judge would go, "Okay, I'm going to allow it." Like it was ridiculous what was done there. And there was a show called, if you want to go back and watch it, called Dallas DNA, where
I think I did watch a little bit. That's where I got some of my stats.
Where they go back and they unwind a lot of these cases based on DNA evidence, which they didn't have when Henry Wade was the district attorney.
Who was the African American guy, Brent? That Kevin. It was like in Polk County or something like that. And I remember we had him on our show. He had gotten out. And he was riding his bike one day, and there was like the DNA, the sperm that the woman that was in the woman's panties was left out, and it was in an evidence bag, but never touched it.
His guy's name was James Bain, and what we had to help him with, he got let out with the DNA.
Brian Hadley, a fucking walking encyclopedia.
He is amazing.
He gets let out.
I got to take these mushrooms to find a way to get him.
You got to get tattoos of mushrooms immediately.
So he gets out, right, based on the DNA evidence. And then the state of Florida, there's a formula about how much money you get. But if you were wrongfully convicted, they were holding his money and not giving him his money.
They owed him like $1.35 million, and they were going to give him his money.
You should get that as you're going out of the courthouse.
Yes.
It's set up in an account for you already, so you can get set up as the second you get out.
The minute you get out, they give you the ATM card that's hooked up to that account, right?
Right. So we had to go get Kevin for him to get him his money for being wrongfully convicted.
Yeah.
It was it was insane. How our judicial system works.
Well, hold on. Yeah, you and I mean, all three of us can attest. I mean, we've seen just on the local level how unfair it could be. I mean, come on. Look what
it really is.
How many people? And I'm not trying to make this about me, but Brian, you're a lawyer. Do you know of any other human being that's been on trial 4 times? On real trial.
That's not an actual mobster.
That's not an actual mobster or murderer. No.
No, not even actual. Like, do you know of anybody personally?
Yeah, I've when I was growing up in Newport Richie, a lot of people got into drugs and have had a unfortunate.
How many are 4-0?
Oh no, they're all.
Nobody
has any W's.
Like how many? Okay, let me ask you. I know how many are 4-0.
Yeah, no, I don't know many people that are undefeated.
When the game was when the highest ranking motherfucker has this mentality.
In this case, you said your office deemed it a crime, but in fact, a jury determined that it wasn't a crime, correct?
Well, we can get very philosophical.
No, we really can't.
If you choose to. The jury verdict says not guilty.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't say innocent.
Brian, as a officer of the court,
you're not going to like my answer.
As the officer of the court, is there anything that a standing state attorney could say that would be less fair and break protocol as to the office that he represents?
What he is saying is technically correct.
It's not, though, and I'll tell you why.
Well, it's technically correct because the jury, in your case, they ruled so quickly. It was very clearly that you were innocent. He's taking
Brent's case too. Brent was there too.
He's taking 2 different things. He took, so if you listen to Greg Herring's question, he said Bubba was not
In this
guilty.
case, you said your office deemed it a crime, but in fact, a jury determined that it wasn't a crime, correct?
All right, so that, I think Greg pretty much asked a great question.
He then gets into this innocence part, which is different and than what Greg Herring was saying. Greg Herring didn't say that you were completely innocent of any wrongdoing at all. He's saying you were not guilty of the crime that his department said you were guilty of.
Then that makes you innocent, doesn't it?
Yeah, so, Brian, you are what? Until you're
innocent
proven guilty?
until proven guilty.
So you are actually innocent.
Right. In
the legal sense.
In a legal sense, the jury does not check a box that says innocent,
no, it says
which they should be able to, by the way.
Right.
They should be able to check a box that's innocent, and then the prosecutor's fucked.
It says guilty, not guilty.
Right.
That's the jury form. But in our system, you are innocent until you are proven guilty.
Yes,
Brian,
and that's the philosophical side. We can get philosophical. And so let's take that a step further. If Greg Herring wanted to be a motherfucker with him, he could have. It was good that he didn't. It wasn't that sideshow wasn't necessary because it showed the jury that that the witness was being unreasonable. He didn't have to make him be more unreasonable.
Correct?
Well, we can get very philosophical
I'm
if you
sure we
choose
can.
to. The jury verdict says not guilty.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't say innocent.
Yeah. I mean, it's what.
Well, that's
Now-
what the,
now,
that's what
what-
the jury verdict says, but that's not how our system is. What our system is predicated
Would
on.
a follow-up question, Brian, have been, was not guilty and innocent offered on the jury?
I mean, he could
was
have
that,
gone
was that
down
on the verdict form? And how many verdict forms have you have shown that under your tenure? You're now a 4-term state attorney, and how often do you put innocent on the jury form?
But here's the problem with that. He could have done that. He could have. He said, "Well, innocent's never on the jury form." For that, that's the reality. And so
Okay,
that's
so
what's
if you're-
disingenuous about his statement is that they don't have that option. If they had the option in your hog slider, I guarantee you that jury would have marked innocent, not guilty, innocent.
So what's
didn't
the-
do
as
anything
you
wrong.
said-
you didn't prove jack shit.
But as you said, Greg chose to not shove it up his ass.
Because-
if you're Brian Matroni and you feel like ass shoving today, what's the follow-up question to Ober's answer?
Well, let's get philosophical. Let's get philosophical, Mr. Ober.
Okay.
Is a jury given the option at a criminal trial to find a defendant not guilty? I mean, innocent rather.
Brent, you be Mark over and try to be a real horse's ass.
Well, that's in our system. We mark things guilty or not guilty.
So the jury's not given the option, correct?
Well, that's not an option
That's
in the
not an
criminal
option.
justice system.
Okay.
I love it.
And so when somebody is found not guilty, they're found not to have been proven to have committed any crimes, correct?
They're saying that it wasn't proven beyond and to the exclusion of any reasonable doubt.
And there's a presumption of innocence for every single individual when they're charged with a crime in America. Is there not?
That is how the justice system is supposed to work. But when you come into court, you are either guilty or you're not guilty, and it's the job of my office to prove it or not.
That's really good, and
This is pretty damn good.
this is why you
You're
don't
trying to
go.
fucking,
but-
it's like
but-
you're trying to smash a cockroach. You can't catch the little
Exactly.
motherfucker.
But this
right?
is
you
why-
know you're going to get him.
But this is why Greg Herring doesn't do that with him, because now
Because
we're
it's going to be a pissing
20
match.
questions, pissing match, where you've already shown that he's biased against you. That was the whole point of the question, and he just did it for you without doing it for you
You don't
because
even
of
know
his
that I became.
arrogance.
Brent will tell you I became unfucking
Oh, I
glued.
know you did.
I wanted to fire Greg Herring right there on the spot. I looked at Jay and I go, I'm firing him. He goes, well, what do you mean? I go, I'm firing that motherfucker. He goes, what? What do you mean? I go, that is the biggest bunch of bullshit. Why didn't he just fucking pepper him? He goes, he's got. Please
He
don't
knew
fire
what
him.
he was doing.
Yeah,
and that was just because you just didn't. All you wanted the jury to think was that this guy didn't like you, and that question and that answer proved that this guy won't even concede that you were found not you didn't commit the crime that you were accused
How
of.
rare is it for the sitting state attorney
Elected.
to testify, elected state attorney to testify in a name calling case?
That's rare.
Oh, my
first of all, how
God.
rare are name calling cases?
Right.
Amber and Johnny.
Right.
And how many politicians do we know that are lawyers and are prosecutors that if they were the state attorney and they were called it, they would have picked up the phone and called Phil Campbell and go, "Are you out of your fucking
Yeah.
mind? Do
Yeah.
you want problems with my office for the rest of the time that you have your law
Keep me
license?
off your fucking witness list.
Right.
Yeah.
Or even called the judge up and said, "Hey, judge, listen, right?
Oh,
Could you have done that, Brent?"
He would, yeah. You know what? I guarantee you, Ober could have walked down there into Judge Arnold's
There
chambers
was-
and gone, "Listen, I don't want to be a witness here. This is bullshit."
Oh,
Hey,
Bu-
Doug,
Bubba,
take-
I'm
take
telling you
care
right
of
now,
this.
there was
Yeah.
somebody who was very close to you that didn't really want to help with because of those reasons, because this is bullshit. But
What do you mean?
well, I'll mention it off the air.
Yeah.
So there was somebody close to me that didn't want to help. What?
With the MJ trial,
Oh, they didn't want to help.
help with the testimony on the MJ trial.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite days of testimony because I shoved it up John Ellis's ass in front of the jury.
And then they fucking dirty pooled me and wouldn't let Brent be there.
Yeah, you know what? And then the the plaintiffs called me as a witness first, so J.D. Yako got to cross-examine me.
Right.
Our attorneys. That is one of the dumbest things.
Yeah, I mean, like, hold on. You would think, and I'm not trying to talk. I'm not going to mention any law firm names or anything like that. But Brian, you would think that's fucking lawyer 101, ain't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's lawyer 101 for a possible get shoved up your ass, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even a lawyer, and I know not to do that.
So what you know what I did? I have never told this story. I went with who are my now in-laws. I went over, and my father-in-law is an ex-Tampa police officer, and my mother-in-law was corporate America, Willie. And I went to their house, and I had my wife ask me questions like Mr. Ellis would ask, because I had sat in a deposition, so I knew exactly what questions he was going to ask. So I answered them a bunch of different ways, and these two people are conservative in the term of like how they conduct their lives. They're socially conservative people, calm people.
They're not swinging at Caliente like you and your wife.
Yeah, they're not wild. Right. They're not wild. So I wanted that.
Caitlin's mom's not doing BBC this weekend.
No.
Right,
I wanted those two people to hear my answers and give me feedback on how I came off.
They watch BBC. They don't take it.
Right. So they did, and they told me, you're coming off a little aggressive here. You're coming off a little heightened here.
Yeah.
So what I did, when he would ask me a question, I would stop and I would turn my chair towards the jury, and I slowed my speech down 2 beats.
Yep.
To make sure that I explained clearly to the jury what was going on. And then what got him so pissed was like, when did you make the decision to attack my client? And I was like, oh, I wouldn't use the word attack. He was like, well, what word would you use? I said, criticize. And the jury foreman was like, boom, right there, the light came on.
Yeah.
You're allowed to criticize people in America.
Yeah,
like
especially a public person.
A public figure that and he was like, well, you guys said this, and this, and I was like, well, that was just to get under your skin.
Listen, a lot of people don't realize, and I'm gonna blow some smoke up Babyface's ass, but one of the contributing facts that we prevailed, 1, we didn't do anything wrong, and 2, was an absolute fucking joke, but 3, Brian fucking nailed it during Vordire. Now, Brian was about 10 years ahead of looking into people's social and things like that. You know, Brian, when we were doing Vordire, picking a jury, Brian, when we came back the next morning.
We had a very unique opportunity with your case that is not frequently present in a typical
but it was you
jury
that did
trial.
It. You
yes,
did it.
I stayed. Just do it. I did not go to sleep that night.
No, I know. So go ahead and explain.
So what'd you do?
Oh,
so
you
after
don't know this,
we got out of
Brett?
court, we had a list. We're down to a panel of, I think it was 19.
I think it was 20
or 20 potential jurors.
Yes,
but we actually court was in recess. And the jurors were all given the instruction, you're all potential jurors, don't read anything, blah, blah, blah. I ran back to the office, and I was
literally ran.
Ran back to the office.
Like Superman running through the fucking streets with his coat dangling. He did, I swear to God.
For the next...
And flat-foot leather loafers.
For the next 11 hours, 12 hours, I was up researching, finding every ounce, every scintilla of evidence, of information I could about every single person on that jury who was a potential juror.
Their Facebook page.
I mean, I found people that were selling bikes, and I would take their area code. I could find their number. I would take their area code. Where were they from before? Right? Where did they grow up? This information, okay, well, they have a 631. That person's originally from New York. Now they live in Florida. They've been in Florida 20 years, but we didn't get into, you can only ask them so many questions. Right. We had a dossier. I had a notebook that was a dossier on every single potential juror with every bit of it. Now, some of them didn't have as much as others. Some I had a ton of information
and
on.
some you had like nothing. She's from Carrollwood.
I'm like, I got nothing on.
She goes to St. Andrew's Church.
That's why I was up until 5, 6 a.m. doing all this, because I was like, I got to find something on this juror.
He had something. He at least knew where they lived and if they went to church or not, and if
what they did for a living, how much, roughly, what party affiliation on every single one of them, what they did for a living, and where they lived and who they lived with.
Let me tell you this. So we definitely had a leg up, and I mean, listen,
they hired that old swinging D jury guy expert. Remember,
originally,
Harvey. That's who we used for the hog trial.
Yeah,
he was our jury guy. And during voir dire during the hog trial, I used one of my peremptory strikes on. So first juror number 1 comes in, and he looks like the Joel Osteen. He's a preacher. He looks like that shady of a guy, like pressed suit. I mean, easily $4,000 suit.
Wow.
And Dirks, who's the prosecutor, asked him, "Can you be fair and unbiased here?" With that, and he was like, "Yeah, I can be fair and unbiased," and blah 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 blah. And I turned to Kevin, I go, "This guy thinks Bubba's the devil. Peremptory strike. Use it on him." I don't give a fuck. I get 3. I'm using one on that guy right there.
I'll tell you about Brian.
You win or lose in Vordaer.
I'll tell you about Brian. Oh, we did.
Vordaer, buddy, please.
I'll tell you a babyface deal. So we're starting the trial, and we all got Zephyr Hills water bottles because that seems to be the popular water bottle. That's what we brought in for water bottles. Brian comes in the next morning.
This is true.
Listen to this. Brian comes in the next morning. And
I went to CVS.
He went to CVS, and he got there was like 4 or 5, I think 4 or 5 bottles of water. We needed maybe 6. And Brian opens up his briefcase, and there's 6 bottles. There's hardly any papers and shit. There's 6 bottles of Dasani water. Dasani water. I go, I like Dasani water, but what the fuck's wrong? He goes, juror number 3 works at Pepsi. Pepsi distributes.
No, Coca-Cola.
I mean, juror number 3.
Coca-Cola plant.
Juror number 3 works at Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola's water is Dasante.
I love it.
And so, Brent, we drank Dasante water.
That's the worst bottled water in the fucking world.
But I'll tell you, Brent, you don't think that as she's watching us, that you don't think that,
yes.
I mean, Brent, if you knew a guy and he had a Gator, Brent, you could walk up to a guy, and if he had a Gator jersey on, you're automatically giving that guy a little bit more of a chance than the guy that's got the fucking Miami Hurricane jersey.
Absolutely. And
right?
And another thing is if I see somebody and I see any indication that they're a heavy metal fan, I give them
benefit of the doubt.
Because they're part of our community.
You see a guy that's got, fucking Megadeth with some tattoos.
Yeah, I'm like, that guy's pretty cool.
You at least give that guy,
I forgot about the Dasani thing. I ran to CVS and I bought cases of Dasani.
And can I tell you what JD Yako said? So we got the waters, and JD Santos goes, leave it to that motherfucker. and then I'm like, do you think it really matters? And Jay goes, oh, optics are everything.
100%.
Everything. And Jay was like, that's my boy, because you were working for their firm still.
I was this was 2012, lawyer. January 2012.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago.
You were a junior decade ago. Yeah, I was actually I was at that point 5.5 years in with them as an attorney.
Was that one of your biggest coups in Vordaer?
Oh man, that was one of the first times that I really got to shine with them, and I really had to. I mean, that was. You think back to that. That was pretty progressive, and to have that.
That was Amber Heard, Johnny Depp.
That
10 years prior.
That was really, and we couldn't have done it, but for the fact that it was such a controversial case, and they couldn't get through to get enough jurors to be able to impanel a jury, and that that night gave us such an advantage in making sure we had the right people.
You should have seen the hog trial, how many jurors they had to bring in because it was so highly publicized.
But did they get it done in a day?
No.
Or did jury selection take 2 or 3 days?
I think it was at least 2. I think it was at least 2 or 3. Yeah. It took a while because
it's so rare that happens.
Because we had 4 defendants. So on the defense side, we had 12
and you have so many strikes.
I got 2 stories.
And the prosecutor gets the same amount.
I got 2 stories.
Oh, they only get 3?
Yeah.
They don't get it per defendant?
Nope.
Oh, see, I'm not a criminal guy. I don't know.
I got 2 stories before we say goodbye because it's getting long. 2 Brent Hatley stories. One of them is we're in Vordaer or whatever. No, we're in a hearing with who was our Figueroa, Judge Figueroa, who I think is the lead judge now on the 13th Circuit.
Oh my God!
And he's there, and Brent turns to me and Brian, we have tapes of the event, of the hog being of Andy being, in the middle of Brent doing a live, Hindenburg like play-by-play, in the parking lot. And, there's all types of voices, and we've determined that like Manson and Spice Boy and other people.
And they thought Ned was real.
Yeah, and so if the tape included them, then they struck that.
They had to strike it because we couldn't cross-examine them.
Right, we couldn't cross-examine them. And so the only stuff that was allowed would be, me, Brent, Paul, or anybody that was being on trial. That was the only. So Brent figured out that Figueroa wasn't paying attention, right? So every time they play they play an excerpt that they were trying to get into court, and it'd be real damning, and Hatley would go, Your Honor, that's not me. That's Matt Lloyd.
That's Matt Lloyd. Oh, nope, that's Mike Waters.
And so
they were like, okay, so
Figueroa like granted so
every one of them.
So Figueroa granted like 3 in a row. So Brent said, he's not. I think he might be looking at porn on his computer or something. He's not paying attention.
He was not. He was staring off into space. He
So-
was like leaning back in his chair.
So Brent gave Kevin the Iggy. So literally, like they got probably 30% of what they try. I mean, they got
Wow.
they got Brent. They got gutted.
They got gutted.
and Brent's the one that picked up on it.
And Dirk stands up and he's like, "Your Honor, you're gutting my case." And so when they play the audio tape at trial for the jury, it makes no sense.
Doesn't even make sense.
It's two people of a 5-person conversation.
Well, they were so stupid too because they never called Kelly as a witness.
They never
No.
called any
They
witnesses.
never called. I mean, they could have built such a better. Not that they ever had a case against you, right? That it was
Right.
bullshit. But they could have built a better case against you than what they did. But they were so lazy.
So the
So,
other.
but they also decided not to call the cops. We were like, we're calling the cops to the stand.
Yeah, we actually called the two. You know, I think we had 3 witnesses: a veterinarian,
And two cops.
who
A trapper.
We had a veterinarian that testified that in the field, that's how you kill hogs, and that taking the nuts off is a way to make the meat less gamey. That's a common practice. That was one of our experts from like Gainesville, and
Yep.
then 2 of the police officers that said, yeah, we were there, we witnessed it, and we scoured our state statute books trying to find something, as we were being told on the radio to find something, and we couldn't find anything to arrest him for.
And Kevin Hazel goes, "Officer, did you take anybody into custody that day?" "No, I did not." No further questions.
yeah, he witnessed the act and he
So-
didn't.
So Brent, now that it's been I don't know how many years, 20 years
Yeah.
since you and I were on trial.
02, yep.
Do you remember? And I'm going to end it with this, Brian. So we're in court one day, and it's the preliminary part. It might have been during voir dire.
It was during voir dire, yeah.
And so it's not even the sexy part where the cameras are rolling. It's just, and me and Brent get out of court, and 98 Rock or Mike Oliveira or somebody was supposed to arrange for somebody to pick us up, but they forgot. And it was Brent. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was nighttime and nobody. Downtown Tampa was empty.
It was like 8 o'clock at night.
This is like back in 2002.
Yes.
There was nothing
It
there.
was like 8 o'clock at night, and Brent and I were sitting on a fucking park bench on Franklin Street, and there's not a soul around. And I go, so this is what it's come down to, Brent. Me and you in downtown Tampa, and the motherfucker that's supposed to pick us up forgot. And Brent's like, I know. We're fucked.
Oh my goodness.
And when we sat there, didn't we, Brent? We just sat, and I don't even know how. I don't even know how we got picked up.
I don't either. I don't even remember, but I remember that moment. Like we were just sitting out there, like literally nobody was around. Nobody.
Like, I mean, like we weren't high, we weren't
No.
nothing. We were just sitting there, and
Been
we're
in
like,
court all day.
and we're like, you know what, buddy? We're fucking out of gas.
That's-
We're so fucked.
You know, I have a similar one. Was the moment that Judge Arnold kicked me out of the trial and said I couldn't have anything to do with it moving forward because of the whole, Phil Campbell DUI thing. I had to literally pack up all my stuff into a box and walk all the way from the courthouse back to the Bank of America building, which is a bit of a hike.
That is a hike.
It's about
yeah.
4
all
blocks.
by myself after all this just happened, and it was just such a surreal, depressing moment. Like I can
Just
completely
before or after you
commiserate.
testified.
This was after I had already testified, which I lucked out so much
Which,
on
by the
that.
way, you lucked out and you fucking nailed it. They tried to break you down to 0, and you fucking nailed it.
But I lucked out because my testimony went on at 5 o'clock, and all the reporters had to run downstairs to do their
To meet the
live
6.
spots. No, to do a live spot on the 5 o'clock news.
Right.
And so I testified. They all come back up. I'm walking off the stand. They didn't hear. They didn't report. They didn't get any bit
Of your
me
fucking words-
on
of
it
your
because
wordsmithing
I would have
bullshit.
and it would have been fine, but I would have been all over the news. And that was a saving grace for me as well, is that it did, because my involvement was not any, first of all,
Hold
nothing
on.
happened.
Your
but-
involvement was nothing that really seemed like a lot. They
Yeah.
tried to really Zoinksville you, like you really had this big briefcase caper and this big exchange and this big, realistically, you didn't have, you went and got the
Never.
fucking briefcase and brought it to them.
Never, ever.
Right?
Yes. I didn't even know it was a briefcase when I went to go get it. I was told, so I got called, and I was told that Phil Campbell had left personal effects in Melissa's car, and I was told to go get them. So I actually took all I had in my office at that time was an old trial bag which is like a hard-sided, looks almost like a gigantic like coffin-like briefcase.
Right.
So I carry that out, and you see me walking. There's security footage because the FBI showed it to me multiple times. And I walk, and I go, and I meet up with Melissa, who had just dropped off her kids, because that's why she needed her car the next day, which is why I drove her home, because otherwise we were just going to have the vehicle impounded like it normally would have been. But she's like, I have to get my kids to my in-laws. They're going on a cruise with them. I have to drop them off first thing in the morning. So that's why I drove her home that night. So, but didn't look in the backseat or nothing. I get there, I open up the back seat, and I see it's Phil's trial briefcase, and I go,
holy shit.
Oh,
fuck.
My God. And so I called Steve, and I go, Steve, this isn't personal effects. This is fucking Phil's trial bag. What do you want me to do? And he said, put it in your car, do not touch it, do not look at it, and bring it back to the office right now. I literally, one finger, or two fingers, it was heavy, 2 fingers lifted up underneath it, put it into my trunk, closed the trunk. I didn't want, that thing could have been a nuclear bomb. I'd wanted nothing to do with it. Nothing.
If I find that, I'm driving out to Newport Richie and chucking it into Moon Lake.
Yeah, then you're not, but now you're even more fucked.
Now.
Good.
I mean, Brian,
well,
still. I mean, now hold on, Brian. I know we can talk a little bit about this, but didn't the FBI just absolutely, when they had you like on a grand jury or some bullshit, just freak you I mean, didn't they just absolutely grill you every fucking way they could?
I was interrogated by the FBI and the U.S. Attorney for about 12 hours total over the course of 2 sessions.
And you wouldn't break, would you?
It wasn't a matter of, break, I guess, because they wanted me to say things that weren't factual and truthful. Part of the problem was so this is the way the FBI works.
Oh, trust me, I know. They'll pencil whip the fuck out of you.
I'll tell you, they interviewed me too.
They operate from a conclusion, and then they draw the lines back. And then they reverse engineer it. They reverse engineer.
Yep.
So they
know what
conclusion.
they want. Now they just got to make it happen.
And they can usually do it because the U.S. Attorney gets away with all kinds of things like Brady violations and everything else.
Yes.
That's why they have a 99.9% conviction rate at federal court.
So, they literally say they can convict a ham sandwich.
They can convict a U.S. Attorney can convict anyone.
And I've seen it play out firsthand. And this was eye-opening to me because I was naive, had no problems in my life ever. And so seeing the way...
You start fucking hooking up with me, buddy, you got problems in this town.
There's some
You're my
truth
friend.
to that.
No, you want to be my friend, you're going to have some fucking blowback, buddy.
Not the good kind.
No,
so,
not the kind that Caitlin's giving a Galantis.
So they kept trying to connect these dots. And I kept having to stop them, saying, no, you guys are connecting this dot to that. This is all the way up here. This is nowhere near where you guys think it is. This has nothing to do with what you're saying. Meanwhile, they knew the truth because they had my cell phone data.
Right.
They knew that everything that I was telling them was 100% truthful. And they still kept pressing me and trying to convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
It was disgusting what happened in that situation. And the livelihoods and careers that were lost as a result of it are tragic.
Oh.
And everything that played out was awful. But because nothing was the way it was portrayed to be. It was
such a witch hunt for Steve. It was such a bullshit witch hunt. And and Bob Buckhorn had a lot to do with the fucking witch hunt.
The bigger problem was the Florida bar.
Jane Castor had a lot to do with it.
The biggest problem that we had was the evil triumvirate, as I call it. It was the U.S. Attorney's FBI working with the Florida bar, working with the Tampa Tribune, the St. Pete Times at the time, Tampa Bay Times.
Right.
Because of that connection, we could never, ever fully present the truth to the public because if we did, we risked being indicted, we risked being disbarred, we risked, and they were controlling the narrative the whole time through the Susan lady at the Tampa Bay Times.
Oh, what was that girl's name? Hallie?
She's still there.
Oh, fuck, the one that we hate, Malone. Not Mary Jo Malone.
No, Susan.
Susan Carlton.
Yeah, Sue Carlton.
Yeah, Sue Carlton. Yeah,
they were controlling the narrative through her because she was best friends with Phil because he had done work for them for so long,
which is completely unethical.
Well, let's not forget
from a journalistic standpoint.
But hold on, let's not forget that Phil should have been disqualified and not even been allowed to represent him.
There's the other point right there. That was a huge conflict of interest that Judge Arnold let go forward, which I still to this day, every attorney I talk to about this is like, how did that ever happen?
It shouldn't have.
How did that ever happen? And the FBI interviewed me, and this is where me being sequestered, Judge Arnold's ruling kind of came back to help me. So the FBI calls me to interview me about this case. And guess what I tell them? Call Judge Arnold. I was sequestered. And when they called me back, they were like, well, we were able to confirm that, and your phone records confirmed that you weren't in contact at that time. I go, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
I talked to the FBI, and they completely wrote down exactly opposite what I said. They did. I talked to the FBI, and they're like, did Hogan know that you were taping? And I go, well, I don't know, but he lived in my house for 3 months, and everybody knows I have cameras and shit. So they're like, okay. And then they fucking talk about some other shit, but they write it down with Bubba said 100% that Terry knew that he had cameras.
Complete advice to everybody out there. If you are ever in a position where an FBI agent wants to interview you, have counsel and make sure that counsel is taking copious notes, contemporaneous notes with what you're saying, because this is how they get people.
They pencil whip you.
So this is why the FBI interviewed us and not the U.S. attorney. I can make false statements to the U.S. attorney. I don't have to tell the U.S. attorney truth. There's a statute that prevents me from making false statements to a law enforcement officer, which an FBI agent is.
So
that's what Martha Stewart got convicted.
I was just getting ready to say that. Martha Stewart didn't go to jail for insider trading. She went to jail for being dishonest to an FBI agent, which you're trying to get me on.
How dishonest was she versus what they interpreted her testimony to be? First of all these interviews should be recorded.
Absolutely.
There's no
and they
reason
won't let you do it, will they?
Nope.
Did you know in Martha Stewart's case, and I'm not a fan of her, so this is not even me sticking up for her. Did you know in her case that her defense was able to prove that the FBI was lying on the stand and she still got convicted?
Wow.
Yeah, I do recall that.
Now, listen, Brian, if you're getting questioned by the FBI and you're like, I'm going to turn my phone on right here and I'm going to record this just for my own safety. I think that they don't allow that, do they?
I don't. Well, they typically bring you into their building and you're not allowed to record in there.
So Brian's an attorney and I'm not. I just want to preface this by saying this, but my advice.
But you play one on the radio.
Yeah, I play one on the radio, and
and you were my personal one too.
It's not to talk.
This is the street advice. My street advice is: do not ever answer questions from any law enforcement officer from the FBI all the way down. Just say, attorney.
No, mine is when you have an attorney present. So in my case, I was proffering testimony to avoid. They were threatening me. They said, if you do not talk to us, we are going to arrest you. Essentially,
well, see,
we're putting it before the grand jury. You're going to get indicted.
So federal is much different. So here's what they did to me in the Hogg case: is they came to the radio station and the receptionist was like, "The police are here to see you," and I was like, "How about no?" I called Kevin. Kevin calls the state attorney's office, and the police have to bring subpoenas. So Kevin's like, listen, they can't use anything that you give them under subpoena against you at trial. So Kevin's like, go ahead and tell them everything. Kevin sat there with me in the general manager's office when the police interviewed me. You know what they did? They turned around and used everything I said against me at trial. We even had a Castigar hearing in front of Judge Figueroa to exclude all that evidence. And guess he was like, no, fuck off. They can use it. I was like, Kevin. And Kevin was like, well, we have an appellate issue. I'm like, well, a lot of good that fucking does. Thanks.
Yeah. Great. So you can appeal it while I'm locked up.
So I'm like, Kevin, so what I should have done was said,
Brent,
I don't answer questions.
Brent, do you know that, I don't know if you know this, but Stephen J., Kevin Hazlett, Norm Cannella have all told Greg Herring have all told me that behind closed doors, Mark Ober told Clear Channel, if you fire Bubba, this all goes away.
Yep, I knew that. Absolutely.
And so if they fired, did you know that, Brian?
It's tortious interference with a business relationship.
Absolutely.
By the way.
I know, but I mean, there was, and that's a lot of very astute, that is a lot of.
We can get philosophical about this.
But that's a lot.
But I didn't
say
if you fire him, all this goes away. I just merely was suggesting
if he goes on a long time vacation,
that Bubba presents a problem to you guys, and this problem could be solved.
Yes, they came to Kevin and they offered me like a stupid lesser charge.
No, hold on,
interference
Brent.
with wildlife.
No, Brent. You don't even know this. they came to Kevin and offered you fishing without a license.
Yes, that's what it was. Fishing without a license and a $50 fine if I pled guilty.
And Kevin goes, "Let me go ahead and talk to my client." "Oh no, I don't need to. Fuck off." No, we're this was literally the day of closing.
Yeah.
And they came. They knew that they were fucked,
lost,
and they had gone to. They went to Kevin and said, "Will your client take fishing without a license?"
And a $50 fine.
And a $50 fine and 2
'cause
hours
they
of
don't like
community
losing.
service.
They don't like losing.
Yeah, I said, how about no?
Yeah.
Fishing without a license. I didn't even have a fishing pole. I was on a cell phone.
Prince hates fishing.
Yeah, I'm not fishing. I don't even get on boats for any reason.
Listen, guys, I love this. I think the fans love this. And we ought to, Brent, I'm going to get with you on your availability on, bringing you in a few Thursdays or whatever. But if we could maybe fold that into this every once in a while. God, this has been great.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
It's been great. It really has.
I love you and Brent back together. It's nostalgic. It's fun. It's
the show. I had so many compliments today saying the show had a little bit of a different feel, and they loved it.
Well, you know what's great about it, and Brent was, for a while there, and he still did it, but he did it to a lesser extent, and Spice kind of filled that void of being the counter programmer, but not even just counter programming, but holding everything to account and making, one thing Brent's very focused on is what's true and what he views as right. Okay. And I know that about him. He's very principled, and he does that with you. He's learned, I think, over the years to tone it down with you a little bit.
Yeah, I was a bit aggressive before.
But
I was a bit. Brent goes, "I was a bit aggressive before."
But that is one thing he's always done.
Like it's like that's something your therapist taught you to say, Brent. I was a bit aggressive before.
You can say what you want about Brent, but he's not a hypocrite, and he does stand up for what he thinks is right. And so
sometimes to a flaw,
but
Brent will admit that.
A lot of people do that to their own detriment. Principles. I always say principles are really expensive and difficult to keep. Yeah. And to stay principled, it can cost you a lot of money, and it can cause you a lot of grief, and it's a lot of work. But
Brent and I also feed off each other really well. He knows me. He's been on the air with me as long as any. Probably Brent, you have the longest. Well, next to Manson, the longest tenure, and
you have a chance to beat that now.
Yeah, your clock's starting to back up, man. But Brent, when you did some radio with me today, did it bring back old times a little bit? Because you've done a lot of radio since me.
Yes, and here is I love doing the show because it's a more rounded picture that you get when you talk when I talk on your show than any other show that I've ever been on. Every other show I've ever been on, you get a very small slice of what I am, and on your show, there's more of a
we get
balanced
it all.
Picture. Yeah.
I unlike any other, I don't want a whole. I want to know it all, and no answer's wrong, and I'm not going to tell you what to say.
And I'm not going to speak badly of it, but you played a role on the other show that you were on, and you played it well. But you were typecast into a role that you had to, a lane that you kind of had to fill.
Yeah, and it's on that show. If you're talking about Howard's show, it's because of the way their system is set up. Their system is set up for
very structured.
It's structured, and there's a whole bunch of people, and it is
overthinking and overcooking the stew.
Right, and it is a meritocracy. So we all bring your stuff to the people that make the gatekeepers, and the gatekeepers want the most extreme stuff gets on the air. So once I figured out the way to get on the air is the most extreme stuff, that's what I started doing. I had plenty of other stuff that I submitted, and it would make it into the packet. But Howard will gravitate to the most salacious stuff, which I get.
I can't even wrap my head around getting a packet. And I can't even wrap my head around. I just wing it like I never longed, and I got some really talented people that I've put around me, and let's just let it rip, buddy. Let's not overthink it. Let's just fucking let it rip.
I like that better. I really do.
It's more organic. It feels more natural. It doesn't feel forced.
But then what happened was when I would get into the studio with Shuley or with Ronnie or with Sal and Richard, or Benji, those people, and Mamet, those people, we would kind of take it in a direction that wasn't into the package. Kind
of more like I do.
Yeah, and then Howard would go with us. He would actually go there. And here's why Robin's the best, is because she knows good radio.
She is.
And she knows how to keep a good bit going, and she knows how to help shift focus when Benji tries to get you off into the weeds.
Right.
She's really good at that.
Now, when you went and worked at these other franchises, again, I got to thank Brent for 13 years. I was your mentor. I think you pretty much learned radio my way.
Correct.
And, my way is probably a lot different, but yet is my way as good as the big timers? Is my way rudimentary? Is my way what's my technique like compared to the big boys?
Well, first of all, you are up there with the best radio talent in the country as far as being great on the air. There is no question about that. There are very
real?
For real.
Mount Rushmore, top five,
I'm
right?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. You are one of the best.
I'm going to give you a ride home either way, but
Howard Stern, Phil Hendry, Bubba.
Yeah, if you're talking about people that are living, I would put all three of those names in there,
right?
Because they're all unique and they're all do their thing. But you are one of the best. But here's what your show has. There are layers to your show, so the average guy swinging a hammer can get into it because you represent that guy,
right?
The smart people like
you and Brian,
and you've got Dan Diaco and Jay Diaco and Brian.
Right.
And there's a layer.
Kevin Hazlett.
There's a layer for people
Regina,
that are smart, and there's also this. There's this outside the mainstream view that gets discussed here that is not okay. Like, it doesn't even matter Sirius XM. There's a certain lane that you have to stay in. And you allow for thoughts that are outside that lane.
Right.
And that's what I find interesting and different and is that we can think out, you can think any crazy thought you want and you'll go with it and discuss it. Even if you don't agree with it, you'll make fun of the person. You'll make it a bit. But there's not this tight lane that corporate America makes you stay in.
And then I think the only other difference I would say, Brent, in knowing who you've worked for and what I do and what they do is I think that I am the one of the only hosts that allowed to be the brunt of the joke. Like most of the others aren't nearly as self-deprecating as I am.
At all. And
I think that's what gives me a little bit of my charm, I think.
And here's the other thing that this is what you...
And I'm stupid, but I make it funny.
You're dumb like a fox. Here's what's the other thing that you should be really commended on as we sit here today, in this environment that we sit here today. You are, of my mentors, which I would count Brad as one.
Yeah.
I would count Mark as one.
Yeah.
You.
Randy,
Howard, for sure. Fred, all these people. Of all these people that I learned radio from, you are literally the only one that has not abandoned your radio philosophy.
Yeah.
Everybody else has abandoned their radio philosophy. And now I get their reasons for it. We all have reasons. But you have stuck to this philosophy like you know what guys 25, 54 are into and like and how to present it. And you're fucking amazing at it. And it's funny and it's interesting and it's compelling. And there's human drama and there's real emotions in it. There's all that stuff. And that is what has been taken out of our business because everybody's afraid of losing their job.
Yeah, and you know what? Radio has dummied itself down. Joe Rogan would have been just as brilliant on KLOS as he would have been as an independent podcaster. Had regular radio... Yep. Given Joe a chance instead of sticking their head in the sand and wanting to stay away from controversial topics because you might get 14 mean tweets from some fucking one sock bucket butt deal.
Exactly.
Well, it's so funny because they went the exact opposite of the way society went. Social media, yes, we can't talk about things and there's certain things you can't say in a corporate setting, but the only thing that gets people to listen and engage are extreme or outside the box opinions and thoughts and actions.
I think Joe Rogan is having conversations with everybody at a level, like our levels are way more raised than he gets on his show. It is a calm conversation that he has with people from far left to far right and everybody in between.
Right.
And he is pissing people off. This is kind of a bit of brilliant comedy when you think about it. He's pissing people off by just having conversations.
Right.
That he's not supposed to have.
Which just goes to show you how uptight.
Right.
And he's not even available on your local FM or AM dial. You have to seek out. He's
Spotify.
He's an opt-in kind of guy, right?
Yeah.
He's such a genius because did you hear what he did last week? I would never have Trump on my show, ever. And because he was getting typecasted as being so right and so right, and he was losing leftist viewers. And so now what did he do? He said, "No, I'd never have him on."
No, he said they've reached out to me several times, and I've said no.
I don't want to have him on. Now he just gained listeners and viewers from the left.
Joe's brilliant. We had him on the air that one time. He's a fan. He was a fan of the show back then. And, and I'm waiting to play that Joe Rogan card when I have something to promote. And I think Brent, I really do think that when I do have something to promote, I think Joe would put me on.
Oh, he absolutely would. He would be fascinated to have you on, and he is up for however long the conversation goes. He's
Right.
there to sit there, and you can have as much time as you want to explain yourself. And I think that's another thing that people, the CNNs and the MSNBCs and the Fox News of the world, get mad at him about, because they got to
Long form.
They got to put everything into a 12-minute block
Box.
so they can get to the Pfizer commercials. He
Right.
doesn't have to kiss he doesn't have to kiss Pfizer's ass. He gets to have a long. His interview with Eric Snowden is so informative because it's 2 hours, and Snowden can actually explain to you the whole deal beginning to end, and Joe talks to him in a very calm way. That's not what the media wants. They want short sound bites that make you angry. That's what
Right.
they want. And now they're mad at Joe Rogan because he's got 13 million people and CNN's got 500,000.
How bad is CNN right now?
Their ratings are terrible.
And you know what? CNN fucked themselves, man. CNN would have been way popular right now if Trump would have won, right? Because
CNN
they got a boogeyman.
Right.
It's the truth. And
Am I right, though, Brian? I mean, like
it's true.
They'd be number one if
But
fucking Trump was in there.
CNN's real problem is that MSNBC goes to the left of them. Well, when you're in the center, you don't get the passion. You don't get the
You're beige.
You're beige. That's the thing. That's what's interesting about Fox News and why if Newsmax and OAN and all of them were more readily available, Fox's numbers would take a hit.
Yeah.
Because those stations are more extreme.
More to the extreme, yeah.
So CNN's actually hurt more than anything else by the existence of MSNBC and their ability to draw viewers away from them with a little bit more of a leftist approach to their coverage. CNN tries to be in the middle and be beige. Like Brent said, that CNN Plus is probably one of the biggest failures in the history of media.
Yeah, it really is, because they thought that they had an audience, and nobody. That's CNN is.
I was laughing.
Yeah.
I was laughing when I was like, nobody's going to fucking pay for that.
Never.
Nobody.
Well, when your network's in trouble, your Plus service is going to be in trouble, right?
Yeah.
But they were buying that their tweets were getting interaction and their personalities were getting interaction, but they're not. It's bots. It's why Elon won't purchase Twitter. He knows the reality for Twitter. Twitter's interactions are, well, first of all, they're about 80% driven by bots. The actual conversation and dialogue. But when you take the bots out, I'm guessing that 40 to 50% of the active users of Twitter are bots
Or fake.
Yeah. Spoof accounts.
I remember, in closing, one time, God bless his soul, rest in peace, Rush Limbaugh. iHeart was flipped the fuck out that, Rush was losing these huge accounts, Chevy, just huge Ford, McDonald's, Mercedes-Benz, all these huge accounts. Rush was losing because there was this, these tweets that were going out and, like trolling
Yeah.
Rush and the clients and things like that. iHeart did a forensic, like a big time forensic
an
ID.
accounting, yeah.
And after it was all said and done, it was 36 accounts being ran by 9 people.
Yep.
And it was making people like Mercedes and big time, huge, multi-million-dollar companies, rethink being on Rush on 9 people's 36 account opinion.
And if you do it, you can do it with getting VPNs and what's called eSIM cards for your phone, and you can send those tweets what looks like from different parts of the country, which will make it go viral faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. That's the last thing I need. Hallie, I ought to take you home. Brian, you probably got about 4 or 5 cases.
I've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, but today has been great, and I'm gonna learn something. I gotta
chicken sandwiches. It's funny that you're doing the chicken sandwich review.
Oh, wait
now.
till you see it today. I had a guy that fucking. Oh my
I
god!
heard you tease it this morning.
Oh, he was a dick
He
too.
sounded cool on the drive-through, and then I guess he turned on you.
He didn't really want to
yeah.
be a superstar.
He wanted
the
to be one.
African American woman and guy. They both like, man, I want to motherfucking be on TV.
They wanted to be a superstar.
Yeah, they did.
They started yelling out worldwide.
World
Star.
That's a great website.
Listen, I'm right, you're wrong has officially been renamed. That we're all called. Listen, right or left, we're all fucked.
Yeah,
that's it.
With a sandpaper condom.
And with a sandpaper
No
condom. And we'll do this again soon. Brent, thank you. I know it's been a super long day for you, Brent.
That's okay. It's been fun. I really like this discussion. This is the type of discussion that I really can get into.
Yeah, this gets my juices flowing. This is the stuff I miss in this world, is being able to have these discussions with somebody who's not just going to shut you down and scream and yell at you or call you names.
Oddly enough, you guys are about 80% in agreement.
Well, we're on the social side. If we went on to the economics and a few other issues, I'm sure we would have quite a bit. But you know what is?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are swinging from each other's nuts today.
Well, if we got into Keynesian economics versus the Austrian school, and you got into gun control, we would probably disagree quite a bit.
Now, you know what? Can we say that one for next time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you guys so very much.
I love Austrian schoolgirls. I can't wait.
I'll see you guys in a few weeks.